That's not too bad. Maybe get you some LED lights or whatever, right? Whatever, you would use. But I got to ask the question, what is charging that battery in the ground? Or when you take oscillating magnetic fields and there's a whole bunch of, stuff wired up where there's all these coils and everything, like, how does that turn into electricity? How are you, taking like the waterfall and taking that motion, kinetic energy, and converting it into electricity with magnets? I mean, does anybody actually know how the fuck this happens?
Well, we don't know, but I think, Larry, isn't the answer through chemistry? I think most of the answers come through chemistry. Now, a lot of people, just like we were talking about earlier, chemical reactions happen. We observe them happening. Some dude was saying we can measure the distance between particles. You can't, but you can measure chemical reactions. You can, that's what chemistry is all about, and it's just
Is that what chemistry is all about?
Not all about. I mean, of course, you put different chemicals together and changes. I mean, you can manipulate things, with electricity, and then cause another chemical reaction. I mean, isn't it? Maybe I'm confused about chemistry. Maybe I'm wrong. Go ahead, tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
You're wrong, Helio.
All right, tell me
how long do you have?
Tell me how chemistry works.
Can I just answer Hank real quick? Damn, man.
I mean,
no.
I had a chemistry class in high school, and they told me about the periodic table of the elements. But then there were certain aspects of it where they said, hey, you can put some of these chemicals together, and then it gives you a whole different, or not a different chemical, but there's different reactions, by
profound.
Could be a different chemical too,
right?
Very profound.
You know how the sun, the
So
moon is
amazing.
moving above. You know how the sun and the moon is moving above us. Like an electromagnetic field is like when you do the same thing. Like you wrap a wire around a nail, right, and run some electricity through it. There's your sun going around, this nail, right? Like, and then it creates an electromagnetic field. I mean, we're in it, are we not?
It's like a field of energy that flows. Yeah, and it's like if you're in your room, the structure of your room can determine what flows through the room. Either, you can walk through your room easily because it's nice and organized, or if it's a jumbled mess, like in this pained analogy of the structure of the ether, if it's a jumbled mess, no energy is going to go through, or you're not going to be able to go through the room easily. You're going to have to stop here, pick up something, stop here, pick up something before you can do anything. And the structure of space is like that. If everything is in sync and structured, energy flows in and flows through quite easily. But if space is jumbled on, I guess, some sort of electromagnetic ether level, then nothing really is happening. It's just a mess. And so that gets into stuff like resonance, the structure of space. Is everything organized? Are things, resonating in sync, or is everything a jumbled, disorganized mess where there's no energy or no battery flowing or whatever?
Which, of course, it's got to be organized, right? And the real secret is that magnetism and electricity are not different things.
Right.
Just so you guys know, what I mean?
What's the
example that Hank said, maybe when he added that, lemon juice, the battery said, oh, everything's nice and organized now. Now some energy can flow in or something. I don't know. Maybe it just reorganized things and made it so energy can finally flow into the battery or something.
Well, we're talking about the wave, right, and how energy moves through the medium and forms. Well, it's like, isn't it just harnessing? That's what how Tesla explained it, right? It's like harnessing the water. You're just harnessing what's already there in motion, moving, and it's not really like you're not generating anything. You're moving what's already there.
And it looks like the way that you're moving what's already there is, maybe organizing things a little bit, structuring space so that, or whatever, so that energy can flow in without it being a jumbled mess. It's about
tapping into the order, right? If you adhere to energy cannot be created nor destroyed, if you do adhere to that, well, then that means it can only be transferred. And so whenever you get electricity, where is it being transferred from? Because it can't be created, so where is it being transferred from? the background medium, also known as the ether. I mean, that's where it's at.
So, we all got to go back to basically, the 0 point energy thing, right? Because I think that's, basically what it is. And if there's this energy just popping in and out, right, it would make sense that if you had, one coil, you might get like 5 volts, right? But if you had like several coil, like, who knows how many volts like you could stack up, right? Under the right conditions, you allow the most amount to flow. And basically, when I say flow, I'm not saying it's like flowing out of nothing. I'm saying that the way that the earth is made, it appears to be a perpetual motion machine. Like, that's the way I see it. And all this stuff is like running, and it's all being like stirred up by the sun, which is adding all this energy for some reason, to the earth, to the water. And then when people like talk about like the resonant energy in the background or the 0 point energy, then people start like losing their minds, because it's like 120 zeros. Like, well, maybe it's only 60. Well, still 60 is a lot of zeros, bro. Your model's pretty screwed up. And it's like everybody wants to like freak out over this thing, but it is what it is. It's just background energy, the 0 point energy, or whatever you want to call it ether or
Mhm.
whatever. But if you think about it, every light never goes to zero because the inverse square law only halves the energy. Potatoes. Uh, then there's always like a background radiation, like static.
Yeah.
Just, anybody old enough to remember static?
Well, I always say the word background because I thought it would be real intuitive. I thought like ether doesn't mean anything, but like when you hear background, it has a definition. I thought that background would really resonate with people where they'd have some type of visualization or it'd be like an intuitive understanding. And I found that that's not the case. Like when I say background medium or the background, people look at me like I just asked them to solve a, calculus equation in 30 seconds or something. It's like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out a way to present this stuff the best I can, and I've come up with, well, like energy has to be within something. Like something has to hold the energy to sustain it. So it's within something because there's something there. And waves aren't things; they just are mediums moving. So there has to be a medium when we see like wave propagation. And it's a background medium, but none of this stuff seems to resonate with half the community. And what I've figured out is we may be at a tipping point of flat earth where it's taking off on TikTok, and I'm getting like really famous people hitting me up and stuff wanting to do flat earth shows. And I think we're at a tipping point where the ones that are going to crush, they're just going to elevate to the next level, and flat earth is going to take a step up and we're going to tip it over. And then some people are not going to elevate with the other group. And I think sometimes that's not a bad thing. So, sometimes that's required for growth. And maybe that's where we're at, where some flat earthers are going to keep growing in knowledge, and some are content where they are, and that's all good. Like we could still have a picnic or something.
Well, I think getting people to visualize it is one thing. I mean, we've been conditioned to think of space as nothing, and that we haven't been given words or images that make us think of a picture of space as being anything but a blank or just, an empty black void. And so ideally, we use words that help people visualize and call to mind some sort of image to help them understand it better. But I think we've been, conditioned not to do that. And so it's going to be, kind of not necessarily a fight, but part of it is going to be learning how to visualize space in a new way, as opposed to just this black void, nothing. How about something else like water, or something that flows, or a repository for energy, or whatever. Just thinking of space in a new way that's maybe a bit more etheric. I guess they call it space time, quantum fluid, quantum foam, whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure. Like Tesla would say just that, like what you just said, for sure, that it's like it's water like. It's not water, but it behaves like water. And the analogy that Tesla used to explain the ether to people is if you walk up to a lake and you throw a rock in the lake, the rock will hit the water and it'll create ripples. And those ripples are what we see in the material world. And that lake is the ether.
Hey, good
and
night,
that
everybody.
it's water-like. Good night, brother man.
Yeah,
See ya.
Deuce.
Good night.
I actually need to crash too. My goodness, it's 3:20. What is going on?
How the time flies.
Yeah, I want to talk about the quantum phone. So, does anybody know anything about the quantum phone?
Not me.
What do you think about that phrase there, Metalark, about time flying?
It does make you wonder where they got that
Makes you
phrase from.
wonder, wonder, wonder.
I guess like
Quantum
a
foam
bird.
is just what
How time flies is the we have 24 or 23 fragments on Earth. They call them longitudinal lines, right? And then it starts over, right? And it's
Hey
based
guys,
on the path of the sun.
I'm
Correct.
gonna crash. I'm gonna crash. I love you guys though. Nice talking with you
Hey,
guys.
Wit,
Good talking with you.
thanks so much for hanging out with us.
Send Kai our love as well, please.
Will do.
Gary, with the
Give a little back. With
Good night.
all right, bro.
And Deuce, he left too. Yeah, thanks Deuce for hanging out and freaking making this place a better place to hang out. And Deuce is a really good joker, man. He feels the crowd, and then he I think not a joke, but it's just like he makes it more entertaining for people to listen to it. So yeah, I really appreciate Deuce Folk being in this server. I think he's great. And shout out to Larry and all the people that make it great. I freaking love all you guys. We wouldn't be here with all. I know I'm just like Sunday night. I get it.
What about us?
I still love
What
all
about
you guys.
us?
Anyway, so we're let's get back to the topic.
Elio, quit acting like a virtual particle, bro.
Is that how you feel, bro? Is that how you
I
really feel?
really do feel like that. I was just like, this
He
place
just
wouldn't
pops
be
in and
here
out.
without all you motherfuckers, and I freaking
He
love
pops
it.
out for a cigarette break and pops back in. But acting like virtual particle, bro.
No, but seriously, everybody knows it. They never say it, but I'm saying it. All you guys make this. The only reason this is happening is because of you. So I freaking love it. Ain't gonna lie.
So if there is no, ether, then what is the 0 point energy? Is that just virtual particles? Is that what you think it is? Is your phone like emitting particles right now? Like light?
Like in Minecraft?
No, more
Sorry.
like in the,
Earth.
the atomistic worldview of, how light works. Like it's photons. They're not
Nope.
visual photons.
I told
They're
put some
like,
glitter on my phone, but
A photon's classed as physical.
Have you ever measured the photons from the sun? Nobody has. So anyway, that was inside the quantum eraser test. That was a light emitting diodes or whatever, but that was inside the quantum eraser test.
How do we categorize light?
I don't know.
Seriously.
Light is
do you have an answer for
categorized
that?
by the senses, right? So any animal or human that can see, right, like has eyes, receptors for
transmission,
light.
right?
Even if they can't see, they're still affected by it.
A
Well, that's a
transmission
different kind of light, right? Yeah. I mean, sense.
frequency, right?
So again, with light, right? The thing with light is obviously it's not entirely physical, but it's not entirely immaterial either. It's obviously metaphysical in some regard, like it has to be, doesn't it? Because what does light do over time? Well, a camera, for instance, uses light imprinting onto a film, so a chemical reaction. We know that you can burn that film out if light is for too long shining through the lens. If you were to increase the exposure time, right? light has effects on things over time. It can stain glass, it can warp glass, it can do all these different things, right? Like you said, you don't necessarily even need the eye to interpret that light is there. Someone blind feels the shine of the sun on their face, right?
It can make white people black.
I don't even know this is relevant, but I watched this TV show. It's on Apple TV. It's called C, but it's about
Si, senor.
It's an apocalyptic TV show.
TMZ, he just meant it wasn't saying like yes.
Well, anyway,
What kind of C? Like SEE, the letter C, or
the show is
like
called SEE. It's called C. But the show is it's a post-apocalyptic thing where like everybody's blind, so it's like they're all just like they have their kingdoms and everything, just like in everything. But they can't see, so they march around just like they use.
I saw.
Did you watch
I saw the preview for that. I saw the preview. I read about it, and I was like, too stupid for an apocalyptic show. That's why I didn't watch it. So it's not even a good idea for a show.
I watched all of it, but anyway, but it's just interesting. It's like it's implausible because if you can't see, you can't fucking do shit. But anyway,
yeah, there's also one where if you make noise, the monsters will come get you, right? There's one.
No. It's not like that. If you watch the whole series, but I mean, it's totally different. But no spoilers.
He wasn't saying that. He was on about a different show.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, I'm talking about different shows. It's like they're going through these shows, like with the senses. All right, what if you could only feel it? No. What if you could only smell it? What if it could smell you, but you couldn't see? It's like, come on, man. Can you come up with
different, natural animal instincts, right?
Bad writing, in my opinion. That's why I don't watch that. It's like bad writing, bad idea.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm a victim of freaking watching all these fiction shows and shit. But that's fine. But I come in here and talk to you guys about the real flat Earth. So,
can you explain to me, you guys, about the delta, gamma, beta waves? How we have those as people? Is that true?
It's basically a form of the atom decaying, basically giving off something like a proton or some sort of particle from the atom, basically, as it goes from radioactive to less radioactive. These radioactive elements, glow and are unstable because they have too many neutrons or something like that. And as they give off,
bro, are you talking about chemistry?
You have different types of decay depending on what sort of particle they give off: gamma decay, beta decay, all that. That's basically what it is.
And how can our phones be monitoring that in us?
I don't think we're considered radioactive. It's only if we're radioactive. You have a radioactive element if it has like too many neutrons, and then it starts glowing as opposed to not glowing. Like we have carbon in our bodies, but it would be like instead of carbon with 12 neutrons, it would be carbon 14 if it has like 14 neutrons, something to that effect. It's something to do with chemistry. But carbon 14 is too many neutrons, and so it will decay down to carbon 12 to normal neutral. They call it normal neutral carbon after some time, basically, and give off parts of its atomic nucleus when it does that, or particles from its nucleus when it breaks.
That only happens after you're under the ground, though.
But we're not radioactive.
Well, what they say about it is that you're affected by the carbon 14 atom, and then they'll dig you up later and say and then they claim that they can tell how long ago you lived or whatever after they dig your ass up, or something.
Protons, too many neutrons, and as it gives that stuff off, it's like a bullet. And so the radioactive elements in the current
carbon dating, but it's only accurate up to like 32,000 years, or what they say.
Right.
About 32,000 years.
Well, it's like they give off these bullets that tear your DNA and your atoms apart in the current theory, and that's why these radioactive elements are bad for you.
In
Because
my opinion,
eventually they give
no,
off
I
these
think it's
bullets that
absolutely
break you
ridiculous.
down.
I don't think it's even
Eventually, wait,
plausible.
what? Say that eventually, what?
Healer,
As
just let
these
him finish.
atoms, yeah, as these atoms break down, it's like they give off these bullets, these particles that can basically break down your DNA and break down your atoms. That's why they say radioactive elements are kind of dangerous, with the radiation and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh. Oh, thank you, Lemon.
No problem.
No. I actually think it's what they. I actually think you're wrong about this metal art. They claim it's due to a chemical reaction of. Now
You're on about carbon-14 dating, aren't you, Helio?
Her
no.
original question was the
Hold on.
differences between
No,
beta,
wait.
gamma, the
He
decay,
said
and
carbon
it's
14.
basically the
That's
type of
fine.
particles that are given off by the atom.
The only reason I was talking about carbon 14 is because Metalark was talking about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
because we were
brought up
talking
in
about
what you were talking about.
beta and gamma decay of radioactive isotopes and stuff like that.
Yeah, man, I mean, are you gonna get into better detail? Because I think it's. I mean, as far as
That's the basic
radio,
gist of
as
it,
far as
roughly.
carbon 14 dating, it's only accurate up to 32,000 years, as far as I know.
Like I said,
Yeah,
you were
that
going to
goes
talk
into the
about
dating,
carbon-14 dating. I knew
right?
you were going to talk about that.
Well, they say this decay by giving off these, beta, gamma particles or whatever, and going from the radioactive isotope form to its daughter, forms, these less radioactive forms, takes a certain amount of time frame that they can use to, run a clock by, basically to say, oh, 3,000 years ago it had this much radioactive carbon in it. Now it has this much, like half as much for a half-life to tell you how long it takes to decay from the radioactive form to a less radioactive form, and we can use that to date the material. That's
Yeah,
the
and it
theory.
just doesn't work because the degradation rates of carbon in general, right,
Yeah.
differ vastly based on the environmental conditions that they're in. Again, like the idea of a bullet penetrating through bone and eviscerating it and separating it back to its base atomic sort of basis of what it is, right? It's fiber, like pulling it apart. That degradation rate is like, how do I put it? It's
Negligible.
well, not negligible. It's
I mean,
that
as far as like if you're going to carbon date something you find, it's
the
negligible. I
degradation
mean,
of carbon and how fast that
carbon
happens.
14. Yeah. But so carbon 14, like I mean, radiometric dating is different, but carbon 14 dating is just, it's just like you shouldn't consider that how you would date how long that carbon form died. Whether it's a human or an animal.
Also, we don't have a baseline.
Yeah, we don't have a baseline. Never had a baseline the entire time. And that same thing goes for radiometric dating as well. So
And the claim where it comes from is shaky at best.
yeah,
This
because
involves
we
like
don't
the
really have any
atmosphere and
evidence
everything.
for their bullshit history of geology and Earth. See, this is where it gets deep. But anyway, I'm not gonna go until somebody brings it up.
But yeah, like I don't know if she knows about the claim or Lemon. If you could go into further detail on that about where the carbon 14 comes from.
Carbon 14 is a form of carbon from having too many protons or neutrons in it. The carbon atom supposedly normally has 12
Oh, look, now we're
protons
back
and
in
neutrons.
chemistry now, right? See,
And the
No,
radioactive form is too many neutrons, like too many protons or neutrons. I forget which one it is.
yeah. No, I just mean
Well,
I mean, so with carbon 14 dating, I'm talking about the location of it. I don't know if you know anything of, like, I don't know the exact words at this time in the morning. Like, it's really late for me. The words
basically,
to
they looked at
explain where it comes from with the atmosphere and everything like that. There's a claim with carbon 14 dating, right? With where this carbon comes from before it's impregnated into the body, even, right? Or the ground or whatever. And they talk about the atmosphere and everything. I don't know if you know about that. That was all.
Sorry, I'm
Like,
trying to find the different types of decay of the nucleus of the atom. They say beta decay is when an electron is emitted. The three parts would be proton, neutron, and the nucleus. And the electrons around the nucleus whirring around, but I think there are other particles that are given off from the nucleus as well as it breaks down from the radioactive form to less radioactive form. Carbon 14 would have like 14 protons, neutrons, and it would give off its extra stuff to get down to 12 protons or neutrons, the normal carbon form that's not radioactive.
does anyone else know what they say about the locale of it?
Where the decay happens? Is that what you mean by the location? Because for carbon 14, they basically say that the organism eats this radioactive decay in its food or whatever, or gets it from its environment in life, and this process stops upon death. And from the death of that organism, that's from the cells of the organism. The cells of the organism have this radioactive, carbon 14 in it or whatever radioactive isotope you're testing for inside of their cells. So it'd be like all over the organism's body, roughly.
As well, WAMA, light, a chemical reaction through gas question. No, when I was talking about a chemical reaction when pertaining to light, I was talking about how light affects things and how we take advantage of light and when it does affect things. And what I was referring to would be the chemical reaction that occurs in a piece of film that a camera would use, and the exposure rate of the light on that film, right? And you end up with a whiteout, is what it's called, if you just leave the aperture open or the exposure time. If you leave it for too long on a film camera, you'll completely burn out the actual film, right? So there's a chemical reaction that happens due to light and how long it shines through the film. But merely the point that I was trying to make is that we see a physical change right there. But we know that light obviously isn't physical, because if we shine it through glass, like, it doesn't smash. If I pass my finger through glass, it smashes, right? But it's not also immaterial fully, is it? Because at the same time, it does create physical changes over time in things. It could eventually melt through glass over time if a concentrated effort was made with a laser, for instance, right? Okay, sweet. Sorry, I just worked it out. No, yeah, Lemon, I was more talking about, they talk, is it the autotropes? I can't pronounce that word at the moment at all. With carbon-14 dating, they talk about it basically coming out of the air.
Is a fancy word for plants. Auto is self, and troph is like feeding. So it's talking about plants that feed themselves off of sunlight and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, so with this carbon-14 dating, there's something in their like narrative and their story around it, right? That at one point, that basic atom or molecule is effectively up in the sky. I don't know if you know about that. Like, maybe type it in if you're on a good computer or something. Like, I can't look it up on my phone right now, but I don't know if you can find anything about that, because it's quite interesting what they say. Like, retarded, but interesting still.
I do think they talk about the problem with radiometric dating with carbon anyway, because Earth hasn't reached an equilibrium condition with carbon. The amount of carbon, from the environment hasn't stabilized or something like that. So they're saying it could throw off, the dating that they, like to have with radiometric carbon. They're saying that you're not really going to get an accurate date until the radiometric carbon anyway, until the Earth's carbon or whatever radioactive carbon equalizes or something to that effect. I'd have
So
to.
when they claim,
what? No, hold on. Carbon 14 is like carbon 12 is the perfect carbon, right? Carbon 14 is a radioactive element.
Right.
And when they date these, whatever they dig out of the ground, they can say, hey, or they claim to say, hey, this was 36,000 years ago, or whatever. Their claims about it. That's not necessarily true. When they claim that they can date an object, how long ago it died, or whatever, it's a cyclical process through all of that. Through carbon 14 dating. Now, when it comes to radiometric stuff, that's a totally different idea, because there's different what they call atoms involved. But as far as carbon 14 dating methods, those are very fucking inaccurate.
Well, radiometric dating is the big umbrella, and under that, you have
carbon 14 dating. That's why I'm pointing this out.
Right.
Carbon
Under that,
14 dating is completely different from other radiometric dating methods, because all the geologists and everything all across the earth, they're going to try to tell you how old the earth is by what they find in the ground. And for the most part, I mean, radiometric dating is even wildly more inaccurate, but carbon 14 dating is even more. It's
radiometric dating is the whole umbrella. It includes carbon 14, uranium, polonium dating. It's basically radiometric dating.
It's based on what? It's
radiometric dating uses a radioactive
based
isotope
on
that
what?
decays
So
into daughter elements. That includes carbon
based on the
14,
half-life. It's based on the
strontium,
half-life.
argon, uranium, polonium, and there's like another one. But basically, it is the overview of radioactive elements that decay into daughter elements, which includes carbon 14. Carbon
based
12.
on the half-life of
Helium.
their presumed idea about the radioactive element, right?
Right.
All right. So you can call me an asshole for fucking interrupting you, but that's what it's based on, right?
No, we called you helium.
No, but anyway, I'm just saying, but it seems like a lot of people miss the idea of what they're trying to date the Earth by digging down and finding other things. And it's like, oh, there's radioactive elements that are not matching up with the chemistry. Just like I was telling you earlier, chemistry is a real science. And
right, we've got some new people in the room.
It definitely is a real science. But if you find an element that is a radioactive element, with these things combined, you can find something like carbon 14 or some other radioactive things. Anyway, it's I wish I could explain it better, but
well, they basically try to date the material by saying, like you say, the half-life. It takes 3,000 years for half of this element to be gone, roughly. So if we see this amount of radioactive element in here, we know that it died X years ago. And so you'd basically divide by 2 and divide by 2, divide by 2. It would basically be powers of 2.
Exactly. That's where I'm getting at. I mean, with some of the when you do carbon 14, but you can test an animal they found in the ice. You test one portion of that animal and say, "Oh, it was 32,000." Then it's like, "Oh, well, this part of the animal was 16,000." So when did it live?
Just one sec. Bitwise Kitty, welcome to the room. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute your mic and ask away. Well, basically, what we're talking about isn't necessarily related to the flat Earth. So if you have comments about the flat Earth, that takes precedence. So feel free to interrupt at any time for a question.
Sure, and
Yeah, it's all
and
good,
on that
guys. I've
point,
been here for
that's true,
400 of
but
my
we're
previous.
still talking about Earth, the only place
Hey
that
there.
exists.
What was that, dude?
So it's all good. I'm just chilling while I'm doing some work. I've been here for quite a while, but I used to be under a different name.
Oh, okay, mate. What name was that?
I'm trying to remember. I can't remember if it was Pure Dave or Max Hacks. One of those two.
Pure Dave.
Why do you like talking to people about flat Earth? What do you find interesting about it?
I just like pointing out the discrepancies, the doublespeak, and all the other nonsense to do with the globe crap.
Oh, cool, man. Yeah, I already know he's a flat Earth already. Because just by the way you said it, you know. And you get when you get like people in here pretending to be a flat earther, it's so obvious, it's unreal. Like because they never answer a question like that.
That's why I asked them.
You know what I mean?
That's why you asked them.
Yeah, I get it. I find
Like, hey,
I understand.
why are you interested in talking to flat earthers? I mean, just let them answer.
Yeah, I've been at FE since 2016, I think it was.
There you go, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go, mate.
Good to have you in here, man.
Well, I think.
See, where do you think he's from, Helio? Do you know his accent? I do, but wonder if you do.
I mean, he's obviously from England, but I couldn't tell you what region because I don't know. I don't fucking.
Let's say he's from Perth.
All right, go ahead.
Do I sound like I'm from fucking England, eh?
No, you don't.
Not at all.
Right, do you want to try again, Helio?
God,
not England.
I'm gonna have to hear him speak more.
Well, it was obvious a minute ago.
It might be Australian. I don't fucking call me a shit.
I'd say he's from Perth.
Yeah,
that would be correct.
Yeah, he's probably an Australian. Yeah, but there's a difference between the Perth accent than there is, the people from Sydney. There's a definite difference. And we get New Zealanders in here sometimes too. Right? There's a difference. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention.
What the fuck all does New Zealand have to do with Australia?
It's pretty close.
New Zealand and Australia are kind of next to each other down there.
New Zealand is a whole new continent, guys. Try to keep up.
Dude, I would love to go visit New Zealand. I've looked at it on Google Earth and I've heard people talk about it. I've looked at all kinds of videos. I'd love to visit New Zealand. It looks pretty awesome. I don't think the Australians would agree. It looks pretty badass.
Where would you prefer to go, Australia or New Zealand? Gotta be New Zealand.
I don't know, both, I guess. Not in the mid part of Australia because that's just desert, but the coast of Australia looked awesome, man, to me.
Yeah, I heard of something called the Golden Coast.
Yeah.
Mate, if you go to Australia, you got to go the coast and inland as well, mate.
Definitely, you got to go to Queensland and the Golden Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the desert. I mean, we have deserts in North America here too, and they're pretty awesome.
Bright red ones.
Yeah, I think they got a couple of them in America, but not quite like out there.
No,
not as open ones
there's
in the ground.
shitloads of deserts in America.
I'd love to go to Utah. I reckon that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
that's some
desert
pretty
there. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
All those rocks just randomly sticking out of the ground. Rocks, they're huge things. Those things that people call tree stumps.
Are there any temperate deserts in Australia? Are there any temperate deserts?
Most of Australia is desert. What are you talking about?
No. I'm asking about a specific kind of climate naturally occurring, a temperate desert, kind of like how here in Oregon, I live in the middle of a temperate rainforest, and to the east of me, there's a large temperate desert, but it's the only one that I know of in the world. I was wondering if anyone could think of another temperate desert that exists, a desert that's not really that hot as most deserts.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Like West Texas, like maybe like in between the Panhandle and like where New Mexico joins in. It's like a desert out there, but it's not like an extreme Sahara. You're gonna die desert. It's more like a hey, there's peyote out here, eh?
I think the Republic
Oh,
I think the Republic of the Congo there in Central Africa is probably like that. There's part desert and part freaking tropical environment, but you don't really want to visit there.
no, it's fucking hot in the Congo, mate.
The rape capital of the
Really hot.
world. Why would you want to visit?
You don't want to go to the fucking Congo. I don't know, man.
I meant to say grape. I'm sorry. I meant to say grape.
Yeah.
Isn't that where grapes come from? Like, anyway. Out of Africa theory.
Out of Africa theory.
You know, it's funny because doesn't everything come out of the Mediterranean? And isn't it like provably true?
I mean, it depends. I mean, it depends on what history book you look at.
What's provably true? Everything comes out of the Mediterranean.
A lot of stuff like civilization comes out of the Mediterranean. A lot of the food that we use come out of the Mediterranean. You know, obviously not Anita muscaria mushrooms, right? But I'm talking about like a lot of other stuff came out of the Fertile Crescent. As far as that's what mainstream history tells us. Yeah.
That's recent history, though. I mean, do you have any idea about past recent history?
Well, I mean, I'm just going off of what I've seen in the past. But the out of Africa theory, it's not as good as the Mediterranean.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
A lot of civilization.
Okay, yeah, okay, I get it now.
Came out of this area. So that means if there was civilization there, then there were people already like breeding the veg, right? Getting the epigenetics down. You know, people messing with certain cattle and breeding certain things. You know how people do.
Do they? How do they do? Tell us, Larry.
You know, they domesticate dogs and they create abominations called chihuahuas that only work in Mexico. So ask yourself this: how do chihuahuas work in Maine, bro? How does that work? They freeze their ass off up there. That's how.
So you have to keep them in the house. They let them out. Only when they have to take a shit, they go outside.
They eat Taco Bell. They eat Taco Bell. Chihuahuas.
Chihuahuas, they call them.
Like, come on, Chico, let's go outside. You got to take a shit. Like, I got to take a shit, but I'm not going outside.
It just happens to be a country and or a state in Mexico called Chihuahua. Is that where the Chihuahuas come from?
Well, Chihuahuas would probably die in Mexico also. It's extremely hot, and then snouts are so short that they can't really handle anything.
Bro, have you ever met a Chihuahua?
I have indeed, yeah.
They're pretty freaking hardcore, man. It's
hardcore. What are you talking about?
Either they're sweet or they're freaking. They'll bite.
They're all violent.
Finger. Well, not all of them, no. But
they are.
Yeah, but for the most part, yeah, they're pretty freaking violent. Maybe from like however they bred them. Yeah.
Well, it's to do with the fact
they snip at your heels violent. It's just like, all right, I understand that you. It's like
if it was a pit bull,
that's all dogs. I mean, all dogs are like that. You know, they want to protect their owners and shit. Yeah, the Chihuahuas
that's
can
completely a fallacy. Actually, that's not true. Not all dogs act the way Chihuahuas.
Not all Chihuahuas are like that. You know, I've met
most of them have the propensity to be like it. If you haven't, right? So I've known a couple of Chihuahuas that are absolutely fine. If I had a Chihuahua, it wouldn't bite anyone. I know how to look after and raise dogs.
I think poodles are from England, aren't they? Is that where they make poodles over there in England?
Yeah, poodles are perfectly fine dogs, though.
Dude, fuck that, man. I've been freaking like trying to pet a poodle and they freaking just nip at me.
Dude, poodles are super smart. They're super smart.
Very smart.
Smart, but sometimes they're violent.
Even miniatures. Like, well, listen to this. A giant poodle is actually an extremely dangerous dog.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous dog if you train it, though.
The
right?
little ones are like Chihuahuas.
Well, the first girlfriend I ever
You
had,
got
her mum
short
had
man
6.
syndrome like Napoleon and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Listen to this, Hilo. The first girlfriend I ever had, her mum had 6 miniature poodles. Okay, and none of them were aggressive at all. Right?
Yeah.
But they were like champion bloodline poodles. Their parents were
It always
brilliant poodles
depends on how
too.
you raise the dog. For the most part,
Definitely.
Yeah, I've raised several animals, cats, dogs, and sometimes they're just off.
Well, listen, this is kind of my point.
Go ahead.
This is kind of my point about the Chihuahua, right? There is a much larger propensity, I believe, for them to be aggressive, and I genuinely believe it comes down to the design of the dog and its snout. The same with a pug, the same with some of the bulldogs of today that have got too short snouts. The issue that I've found is that I believe it ends up coming down to like a brain damage type deal where they've got a restricted amount of oxygen also, and that could be something that adds to the propensity of their violence and not being able to understand things correctly due to some form of like brain damage, right? Even at birth, they may have this, but the propensity is there.
With the mammals, especially if you find them in the wild, or if you don't know where you're getting them from, they might be inbred, and that can cause.
They all are inbred. That's the only way. The only way you get a Chihuahua is by inbreeding.
So you never know. It's like if they're broke, they're just broke. Doesn't mean you can't kick their ass, but or it's like I got a cat from pretty much the gutter where I work, and I brought him home. Freaking made him some milk, and I freaking.
How did you make milk exactly, Helio? I want to know.
Wasn't
What was the chemical process? What was the chemical process?
It wasn't chemical. It was just like.
What was the chemical process of you making milk?
You know how to make milk for a kitty, and you want
tell us.
All right. Well, I'm gonna tell you. You just break an egg. You put a little bit of milk in there.
Are they your eggs?
Yeah, just a chicken egg, man. Fucking.
Okay,
chicken egg. You swirl it up, put a little bit of milk in there, and then you feed the kitty. And it likes it.
So you make milk with chicken eggs.
Dude, look it up. How to make formula for kitties. Look it up. It's easy, man. And then you have to buy a certain bottle. It's like they're.
So I rescued a cat once. I named him Ferdinand, but when I first met him, I didn't think he was going to make it. You know what I saved him with? Straight up coconut butter or coconut oil.
So you can do that. I mean, it doesn't matter.
I put it in a little.
Looked up formula for kitties online, and I made formula for him, and I freaking bottle fed him.
Yeah, I put it in one of those little turkey basters, and I just shot like a little coconut oil into his mouth, and next thing I know, he's like.
Yeah, you just get them to a point where they can eat on their own, and then you're just like, all right, you're good to go. And now he's the biggest asshole ever. And
I wonder where he learned that from.
He's a good mouser. He's a good mouser, and friggin' he just stays outside and mostly does his own thing. And it's just like if I try to pet him, he fucking scratches me and bites me or whatever. It's like, man, I just raised you from a fucking baby, and like, all right, do your thing. Like I've had some cats that I loved. I love this dude, but I don't care if he dies, to be honest. If he gets himself killed, because
Dude, you're talking about your little buddy. Are you serious? You don't care if he's around one day and the next day
I
he's
actually
gone?
care about it. I think because he's outside a lot, and I think he goes into different places where there's some other cat, because he comes back with wounds and shit. And then he just like sits around for a few days.
Yeah, you can't just go into some other cat's territory and not expect some authentic battle damage.
Yeah, this is like, oh, he's got this. You know what I'm saying? but he doesn't want me to touch him, you know. So I'm like, all right, fuck you, you know, it's cool, man. Go be the hunter, you know, and you know, keep all the mice away, keep all the. I live in the country, so it's like as long as he can freaking kill mice and shit, I'm good with that. I don't have to freaking pet his ass all day. Ain't fucked up about it.
Yeah, but Helio, my cats fucking love me, bro. They always let me pet them.
Well, my cat loves me too. He's just different.
All I have to do is say,
No, well, he's not like that. I mean, and
"Hey,
I've had
pet
a
'em."
lot of cats, but he's not
Pissed.
like that. He's just like, leave me alone. I'm gonna do my own thing. That's pretty much the only cat that I've had like that. I thought that he would actually be kind of lovable, but no, he doesn't want you to touch him, man, at all. But he still sticks around, and he just like stays in the yard and he'll hunt and shit, you know, do whatever he does. And I have another cat. I was anyway. No. Anyway, yeah, that's the first cat like that I've had. Because most cats do like to be pet and loved on. This cat is not like that.
Dude, I got this cat. I call him Mr. Business because when you pet him the right way, he's a black cat. But if you pet him the wrong way, he's white underneath. So he's got like a business suit.
Nice.
Mr. Business.
Cool, man.
My cat's
I
called
mean,
Mr. Fury.
It's like every cat I've had, they let me pet him and shit, but he won't let me pet him unless he wants to be petted. And he doesn't. If you don't pet him right, he's just gonna freaking scratch you and shit. I'm just like, bitch, I don't want you near me if you're gonna freaking attack me. It's like, go do your thing. So I'll just throw him outside and he's like, get the fuck out of here. Which I mean, it's rare that he even lets me pet him. So I'm just like, all right, go do your thing. He'll hang around, but if you try to touch him, freaking his SWAT fucking bite you. You know, I'm just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'm
You
good.
sure it was the gutter and not the graveyard? It's like Pet Cemetery or some shit.
Where I work, it's sort of the gutter. I work in an industrial area, and found him like across the street as a kitten, and I think he was probably 3 or 4 weeks old. And so I was like, I don't want this kid.
You just see Helio, like Will Smith, like, what you doing here, Jeff? You ain't supposed to be here, Jeff.
So I brought him home. I was like, how the fuck do you nurse a kitten and shit? And it was all cool when he was little. Then when he got older, he was like, fuck you, I can do my own thing. It's like if I try to touch him, he just swats me, fucking bites me sometimes. He'll let me pet him every once in a while, but other than that, he's just like, every time I try to touch him, he's like, Wah! Swat, fucking with his claws and shit. He doesn't just go pat pat pat. Fucking claws and bites and shit. Like,
They're called
fucking
skippity
hang out,
pats.
bro. Hang out, bro. Do what you got. Do what you do. Fucking weird ass cat, man. It's the weirdest cat I've ever had.
I can go to sleep.
Yeah, he definitely needed to go to sleep.
I'll let him out tomorrow or some shit. Like, that's the other part that I don't mean he gets. It's like he's gonna like stick up like massively for people that like, bro, they're not gonna be the people you're talking to every day, and like he spends all his time in here.
I think he likes it. I think he likes to. From what I've taken from it, it's like certain people like to be. Oh, I'm the bad guy, right? Everyone's against me. I'm a bad guy. I didn't do anything wrong, really. All I did was say that it needs containment. Then when you dig, got fired for telling somebody that something needs containment. Oh well, I lost my temper. Oh well, then so you did more. No. That's the only thing I said. I only lost my temper. So then you broke something. Oh no, I just kept repeating it over and over. Like, okay, yeah. So, like, come on, dude, get it together. I'm homeless, but he has a boat. Like, shut the fuck up. It's amazing to me. Homeless with a boat. But he won't sell the boat. But he's scared for his life.
He's DMing me now.
I'm not surprised. He's fascinating. He truly is a fascinating character, but yeah. Maybe, hopefully he's been drinking. I would hope that might be an excuse.
Right. Like, I didn't say anything to you.
All right, I posted my favorite cat video. Sorry, guys. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I totally want to watch this.
I love that one, man. It's great. The cat's face when he comes back to the window. Why you ain't coming help me, Curtis?
He's blocked me now. What an idiot. Now I have to permanently ban him.
Damn it, he blocked you?
Yeah, what an
Oh,
idiot.
shit.
Now he has to be permanently banned. Like, I literally just said to him, you'll be out tomorrow. But, like, but, like, straight away, he's just like, you can imagine what he said. Straight away, F you. You sure she married? You know the bitch? F off. Effing sim. I'll be at Witsit's ass too. Let him come back to MN, which is his location, I'm guessing. And then I said, I'll let you back in tomorrow. F you. I said, go to sleep, mate. I didn't do anything or say shit to you. You're insulting me. And my wife, even, by claiming I'm simping or whatever. I've got my own opinion of your ass, mate. I'm over it, and then he blocked me. He said he's over it, and then blocked me. So. I don't even have like I didn't even really put my like anything across to him really. I was like trying to clarify something to him once, but I wasn't being like biased. I don't think, or rude to him. I don't believe at any point. And then he just like claimed that I'm simping for having my own opinion. Weirdo. Very strange.
Well, that's what
Very, very
happens
strange.
anytime, a female is involved. It's either the girl is wrong. It's
What
just
happened?
So yeah, you agreed with me on something, or even dared to be in the same conversation as us, and so therefore you're simping over me. Like, shut up. That's what it just shows. When people do stuff like that, they have no argument. They have to resort to something else.
But like, I don't even really know what that means though. Like, in relation to what I said, like, I actually took it down a turn. I said it just seems like you're whining a little bit. That's all. But I get it. Like, it must be tough to be like homeless and in a car and all that, right? Like, you know, I understand that. It must be very, very terrible.
It's
right?
tough. You don't have to pay like rent, water, and electric.
Listen, bro, I'm choosing my words carefully, right? When like, yeah, it could be tough. It depends what you're accustomed to, right? I don't think I'm gonna cry over it if it's my fate at any point. I've been in much worse scenarios. I'm gonna be honest, But yeah, like you said, you don't even have to pay rent.
All you got to do is figure out how to do what's called incognito camping.
Hey,
so
check this out, though. I mean,
dude, he's got a boat.
Lumpy's been trying to pick a fight all night. I gave him some grace earlier, but no, it's that it ended up the way it probably should have. No, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that.
Nobody's worried about Lumpy. He can believe whatever he wants to believe.
Yeah, but he's trying to pick a fight in here, and we're not about that. So, whatever.
Well, he can make an argument. He can't pick a fight.
No, he's trying.
This isn't the field. The internet, right? If you pick a fight, you say, "Hey, meet me outside." How about that?
How about that?
Right? You don't say, "Meet me on Discord."
That's what he's been doing for like the past couple hours, and I gave him some grace earlier. It's like, bro, nobody wants you not be here. You just need to be, sensible. Obviously, he's not, and so yeah, it was a good, man.
I don't see why so many people are like bent over this, except for Witsit. Now, if someone were to do me like that, I'd probably be like super okay. People have done it to me in the past before, like call me out for some shit.
They have done it to you. What are you all about?
And I'd be like wanting to like chime back, get my 2 cents in, and like, okay, show me, or something would happen to where I'd get muted or something like that, or like I wasn't being heard, or I perceived that I was being blocked or kicked or sniped after they did that to me. Like, I'd be furious, because if you're going to talk shit about me, at least you got to let me like answer. So other than Witsit, being muted and talked over, and basically,
well, Witsit's a mod here, so he really can't.
No, we didn't do it
No,
here.
not here.
But
What's the word
he's
I'm
not
looking
a mod
for?
on Nathan's show, and so that was different. But
He wasn't allowed to respond. He wasn't allowed to properly respond.
I didn't even listen to it, but I know how Kiwi and Nathan do with that ether stuff. And it doesn't make sense to me why it's such a big deal when it's.
That's what I'm saying. Other than what's its point of view?
Yeah.
I actually agree with Nathan Oakley's point of view. Right? And this is the if. Unless it's prefaced, like Lemon doesn't do this. Lemon doesn't preface what Witsit says with, this is speculation, it's not scientifically verifiable. He just comes out and says it. So if Lemon does that, I'm like, Lemon, you can't verify that shit scientifically. And he's like, well, yeah, you can. And like, you don't give a shit.
Actually, he's like, I don't care if I can do it or not. I think the ether exists. It's just like, hey, man, that's on you. You said it, but that's not what Witsit said.
So like, I just don't really understand the argument at all.
Me either. It's just like, but it's a good argument to have.
Well, I've talked about the way that I understand it.
How about, it's a good speculation. If the ether exists, this is what God painted the creation on, the ether. That's the way I see it.
The way I see it, it's the Casimir effect, or 0-point energy, or quantum foam. It's what they're calling virtual particles.
Yeah, it could be anything.
Right, but virtual particles is a made-up word to describe the same phenomenon that Casimir described.
Right.
And 0 point energy is the same phenomenon.
dark matter, and all.
One sec, let him get it out because I haven't heard this before.
Yeah, so for me, it's the inverse square law. So everything that's emitting, light, whether it's a star or a radio, right, a CB radio or a cell phone, everything is emitting signal, right? So all these signals, they're flying all throughout creation from the stars, the sun. Certain planets have magnetic fields. So all these, electromagnetic fields or, radiation that's coming from all these different things all over the world, it has like an inverse square law, right? So it halves it and halves it and halves it and halves it, but it doesn't ever go to zero. So all these fields, we're talking about a guy in China named Chen. He has a heart, right? And there's an electromagnetic field around his heart. It doesn't ever go to zero. Same thing with his Wi-Fi signal. So his Wi-Fi signal and his heart EMF is in my living room right now, and that's what I think the ether is. It's just
that's what an artist. This is kind of the way. I already said it several times. But when you have a blank canvas, or an artist puts a brush to that canvas, or however they're going to make the art, it's blank. To me, that's the ether. Now, whether or not we can physically prove it, we can't, but it must be there because creation is painted on that canvas. That's the way I look at it. Now, whether or not I can't physically prove it, but it must be the way I see
Well, I
it.
think the ether is this is the way I look at the ether, right? I attribute that which we cannot see, but yet we can test as the ether. Like the Schumann resonance of the Earth, for instance, we know we have one. It literally, the Schumann resonance exists everywhere on the Earth, everywhere. The electromagnetic field of the Earth. We can measure the electronic frequency in the air, right? Effectively, what I mean by that is in free space. In the same place you would take an air pressure reading with a barometer, you can read the frequency of the electromagnetic field. That's what I would call the ether. That's what I would call it.
But those are all indirect
concepts. Of course they are. This isn't a scientifically validatable thing that I'm talking about, right? This is like legitimately just like, again, like that's what I've always thought of as the ether,
I think
Yeah,
Flat Solar wants to speak on that. Go ahead, Flat Earth Solar.
Thanks, guys. I was chatting to Lemon about this. I was chatting to Lemon
Sorry,
about
I
this.
didn't realize you came in then, mate. Sorry about that. Right, sorry. Go ahead.
How you crack?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Yeah.
Good. I was chatting with Lemon about this about 3 or 4 days ago. And I said to him, the actual definitive evidence of the ether is LIGO, is the Sagnac experiment. When we pass light east or west, and we notice that it comes back at a retarded or like a delayed amount, we can determine that there is definitely something moving over the earth that retards the light traveling by that 15 degrees per hour. And that would probably be the most definitive piece of evidence that I would then state that categorically proves there has to be some kind of a medium that causes that
staggered, the delayed staggering of the light in the
of that light in that refraction.
But at the same time, that doesn't. I mean, its correlation actually doesn't. You can't say that's definitive. As
no,
the
but that is definitive because if I shoot a laser northward, there's no interference. If I shoot it westward, there's no interference. But if I only shoot it eastward, then we pick up this 15-degree rotational velocity in that one vector. And then if I shoot it southward,
as far as ether goes, like I was talking about, like before an artist, they have a canvas right in front of their face. They just see it, and it's the first brush stroke. when they create something. I mean, I know that's 2D, but 3D is the same thing with the creator. Now, the creator obviously has to have a fabric to create Earth not in or on, both same thing in my mind. Or maybe I'm missing,
Well, no, because you're talking 2D would be on and applied onto
No, sure,
the
but
surface.
it's
3D
kind of
would
still
be
the way
whether
still the
I'm
same way
telling you that your wording's correct, so you don't get muddled up. The reason you're saying that is because to emulate a 3D image, effectively you have to be able to go around it in almost like the perspective of it being the object in the middle, and you're able to rotate around, looking inverted in toward the object. That would be almost like placing something into the middle of a fish tank, and then you being a fish swimming around it, observing it. That's why you're saying in. Do you know what I mean?
What happens when they point it southward, Older?
Say that.
When light, when light,
what was that? What was that?
when LIGO or the Sagnac experiment, basically, Sagnac, they take a light beam, they split the light beam, they send it in two different opposing directions, then it comes back and recombines and creates an interference pattern. If there's no delay in the light or nothing causing a retardation of the light, the interference pattern comes back perfect. It's all banded and everything makes perfect sense. So when they shoot light southward or northward or even westward and it hits a reflector and bounces back, it's received at exactly the estimated time according to quote unquote the speed of light. But as soon as we travel it eastward and bring it back, there's a retardation of 15 degrees per hour. And it's the same way that we see the sun and the stars move over our heads at that 15 degree per hour. Something above us is rotating at
Right,
15
in flatter
degrees per
solar.
hour.
That's supposed to
And you
be
can
proof that
measure,
the Earth is a globe.
no, but
Oh,
you
the
can
tilt
measure,
of freaking.
you can measure how much the light is delayed by. So it's almost as though you can prove that there's an ocean current and the ocean current is traveling in one direction. And so much so that if I try and swim against the current, I can't go as fast, or in all other directions, I'm not interfered with. So it's like, then you could define that there definitely is a substance and that it's moving in a certain vector by a certain speed. And I would say that that's the most direct evidence that we have
That could
for
be true,
an
and it
ether.
depends on where you are on the Earth. I mean, the ocean currents are fluctuating constantly, but of course, you can attribute a direction to that. But yeah,
Yeah, and it's a direction of what? It has to be some kind of a medium that's causing light to slow down in that direction. So it's
well, I thought I thought
what?
we were talking about ocean currents. It has nothing to do with light.
We're talking about ether, and I use the current as an example to
Sure.
elucidate what the ether is doing above us or around us.
Okay, but can you prove that scientifically that it happened? We all observe it happening. The interpretation comes afterwards.
Yeah, the challenge there is that it's definitely in the apparatus. So it's in the Sagnac experiment or the LIGO facility where they're doing this 90-degree antipodal light, where they're sending light in one angle and then sending it 90 degrees opposite to and picking up an interference pattern. So now, is it happening just in the equipment? Is this truly something we would see in nature? But the fact that we see the sun move over our
No,
heads at 50
as a matter
degrees
of
per
fact,
hour
yes. The answer is
indicates that there is
you see it with your own eyes. You see it in the apparatus. You see it everywhere you look across Earth. The same patterns completely over and over every single time. So it doesn't prove anything about shape of Earth. Shape of Earth is a ridiculous idea because the Earth is obviously a level stationary plane. Who told you that it was a globe? That's the big question. Every single person on Earth experiences the Earth as a level stationary plane. If you believe the Earth is a globe, go ahead and fucking believe that shit. But if you come in here and you want to know why we know that the Earth is flat, we're going to give you all the reasons, just like he's explaining, Flat Earth Solar, and every member in here explains it on a constant basis. We're not making shit up. I used to think that, matter of fact, every single person here used to think the Earth was the globe too. But we don't believe that shit anymore. If I'm getting too excited, but whatever. I mean, it's just the way it works. If you really want to find out for yourself if the Earth is a globe or not, if you think this is something that means anything, this is the place to come in here and like have this conversation, and we can go over details like Flat Earth Solo has been explaining, and Crackville and all of us explain many times. This isn't an argument. We all experience the Earth the same way. The only way that you can believe that the Earth is a globe is because somebody told you that it's a globe. Every single person on Earth, every single man or woman, sees the Earth as a level stationary plane. And we can go over these arguments all day. And as a matter of fact, we beg people to come in here into this Discord and say, show us that globe. Show us the globe. Show it. Show it to us so we can shut the server down. And it's like, oh, Earth is obviously a globe, so we can shut it down now. And as a matter of fact, if they could come in here and show us that globe, we will shut the server down, but they can't. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been here for 5 years, 6 years. Show us the globe and we'll shut it down. We won't even talk about it anymore. Bottom line. Show us the globe and we won't even have an argument. The fact that you can't is proof that the Earth is not what they told us it is.
An unrelated topic, something that I've been thinking about for a while, is that Bible says that God separated the waters from the waters. Does that mean that God has gills, or is God wet?
God has gills. Hey, you should make a meme for that and put it up on fucking TikTok or some shit. No, but anyway, no, I don't know why you said that, but
He separated the waters.
Exactly.
God has gills.
I think he's separate.
If I were to describe photosynthesis to like goat herders, would I say photosynthesis, or would I say he separated the water from the waters above and from the waters below?
It's a perfect description of what we actually experience, right? Waters below, waters above. No, I mean, nobody's experienced the waters above, but we certainly.
Did I say photosynthesis? Fuck, man. I meant to say the rain cycle. I'm tired. Forgive me.
Yeah, me too. I shouldn't even be talking on here right now. I think I made my point, though. Anyway. But this, I think. What did you say again, Flat Earth Solar, about the? Forgot what you said. That was ridiculous. What was it?
I find it amazing the synchronicities. Like, I've been thinking about this and sort of asking a few people for the last couple of weeks, and then Jeranism has just done a video also where he says, is God wet? Because of the whole waters and the waters thing. And then he's gone along the lines of, is God water? Because if God is in us, if he's in us and all around us, we have moisture in the atmosphere. And if we don't have water in us, we will die. And it's like the Trinity.
I think
Water
that's
holds three. Water holds three simultaneous states. You can have a solid, a liquid, and a gas, and it's one of the only elements that does that.
What do you think about this as well?
The Holy Trinity.
Let me add something to that, just to help you. So, you know the Holy Spirit, right? In Hebrew, that's the Ruach HaKodesh, which literally translates to. So Kadesh can mean one or whole, or it also means holy, right? So
holy, the spirit within.
Wait there 1 second. Right? So holy, but what does Ruach mean? Ruach means breath.
Breath. Yeah.
Abiyah breathed his Ruach out into the watery deep. The face of the earth, as it were. Again, the Ruach is what? It's the very medium for entropy. I speak Ruach to Ruach, spirit to spirit, but it really means breath. Like, you can have breath in your lungs at one time that I speak life out of my mouth that could eventually be in your lungs, or that first came out of the mouth of Abiyah, which is a gaseous form.
The spoken word, right? Correct.
Yeah. I just thought, the Trinity thing that he's talking about.
And God said, let there be life. Boom.
Light.
And then there was.
Light.
Well, I mean, light was first, but that light is God.
Did not say life. He said light.
I said that just now. Clarify it. And then God said that let there be light, because the first thing was earth, and then there was light, and then
I think there was water.
Life.
God's spirit was over the water.
The earth was out form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Ruach HaKodesh moved, the Ruach of the Abiyah moved upon the face of the waters. And Yah said, let there be light. And there was light. And Yah saw the light, and it was good. And Yah divided the light from the darkness. This is before the creation of the sun and the moon, by the way.
Exactly. Earth was first. Always has been. And so it's just like, as far as spirituality, I don't know if we should or shouldn't, but it depends on who we're talking to. We have fucking thousands of conversations with people in here.
I have a question. But how, that's like order out of chaos, right? I always wondered, like, where did the water come from? Like, it sounds like chaos, right? How is light and darkness, like, what does that look like? Not separate.
Yeah, but what makes it simple, Bong? Yeah. What makes it simple is that God said, first, there was water and me. Basically, it's like water, because he talked about the Spirit of God moving across the face of the deep, which means the water, right? And then the land appeared. And it's really something. Now, whether you take it literally or any other way, very fascinating. Something to consider. So it was creation, and water came first before man or any part of earth. It was water. And the depths. Yep. Yeah, on the first day it was just water. Well, let's say, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and the earth was without form and void.
Yeah, it was without form. Yeah.
And then
makes it seem
water,
like water.
Then water, and everything else came after water.
Well, it's like the idea of the signet ring being pressed down into clay, right? Like the water was there, and what gave the earth form? I don't know. Was it let there be light, even spoken outwardly
That was the
onto the
fourth.
face of
That
the
was
deep, the vibration onto the water?
oh, let there be light was second day, right? Because that separated the light from the darkness. And that was the second day. Because it started with darkness. There was water and creation. Second day, there was light and darkness.
Well, no, I don't think so.
Really? Let me pull up the Genesis account.
Well, that's Genesis 1:3. So in the beginning, Yah created the heavens and the earth, right? That's Genesis 1:1. Genesis 1:2. Now the earth was formless and empty, darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the ruach of Yah was hovering over the waters. Okay, and then Genesis 1:3.
So yeah, earth was first.
And Yah said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And then Yah saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. And it goes on.
Second day, right?
Yah called the light day, and the darkness
And
he
darkness
called night.
That
There
was the
was
second day,
evening,
right?
and there was morning. The first day.
Oh, okay, my bad. Man, I'm tripping. You're right.
Yeah, dude came in here earlier trying to say that God was in darkness, he's only light, and I was like, that doesn't make sense.
No, Yah is everything.
I didn't say that. Did I?
No, not you. No, not you. That other guy, that lumpy guy, like got into an argument with me earlier about, yeah, God is only light. He's not the darkness. He's not anything except for light. He's only light. It's like that.
Yeah, well, the enemy is going to come as a angel of light, only light.
There you go.
There's something to that though that you should consider. When it comes to all this shit, something you should consider. It's like darkness and light are part of us. Always consider that.
Duality. Contrast is very important.
I'm sorry, I messed that up. As far as
You didn't really mess anything up.
Well, it's like, I'm kind of embarrassed that I don't remember how, that certain part of the Christian story. But
yeah, but you're not even like a Christian, are you?
I was very hardcore.
There's nothing to be
long time.
about.
I was, and so but I've been apart from it. But I mean, should I be a Christian? But that's another question.
Normal. There's nothing to be embarrassed about because it's quite normal for people to forget things that they haven't read or done in such a long time. It just shows how long it's been since you've read the Bible.
Yeah, but should I go back or should I progress?
You should not be embarrassed.
No, I'm not embarrassed. I'm not necessarily embarrassed. I'm just saying I just said it wrong, and I remember it, but I don't.
Perfect.
I won't go back to Western Christianity ever again.
No, you shouldn't.
That's not the point, right? Yeah. The point is, don't be embarrassed. It's normal.
No, cool,
But
man.
no,
Cool. That's why it's so cool that we can, talk to each other and, say, hey, I remember this part of the Bible. Because, bro, I was all Bible for a very long time. And it was just certain portions that I might get wrong sometimes, but I know my shit.
I mean, we don't know. Jesus tried to describe to us what heaven and what the Father was like. He tried to use these parables because we don't have any, context or reference if he tries to explain, so it's like in earthly terms, so it's like.
Well, it's like even if you get into Paul's epistles and you really get into that's for another argument for another time. Talking about Paul's epistles, you can go for freaking days with people about Paul's epistles and stuff like that. I really enjoy that. I really enjoy those talks, but and I'm actually quite astute at that.
was talking about Lumpy. You know, I was talking about like God is all light. I was like, I don't know about that because I thought God is all good, but it also says here that God stores up evil for the day of war. So yeah, you know, it's like it seems that God creates both good and evil.
But
Like
that's entropy.
It's like
That's
which
entropy. Wait
when
there 1 second. Where does the evil come from? Right, obviously, Yah created all things in creation. Yah is good all the time. His ways are not our own, and they're of a much higher level than what we can understand. But to put it into some form of context, right? Again, the perspective in which it was written in, we have to go back to the original language. I'm really noticing this. We take Yahushua when he was on the cross, right? There's a part in the word that turns around and says that Yah was pleased to crush Yahusha, as in Jesus. That doesn't sound like Yah. That doesn't sound like his nature. That's not what I know of it. But when we take it back to the Hebrew, and we look into it, and even the Greek, it turns out that the word for crush can also be humble. So that changes it completely. It says that Yah will call us in the hour that we do not know it with a hiss. Yah doesn't hiss. That's a snake-like attribute. We transliterate that. What does it say? It ends up saying that he whispers, right?
It's always sacrifice. It's always sacrifice. That's the way
But storing up evil, I look at that like entropy, right? We are the ones that do evil, okay? In the time of war, it's men that commit acts of war and atrocities, right? Abi, I believe, is not an hour of destruction. People could then call on about the flood. Well, what's the flood? Well, the introduction of the life force of water itself onto Earth. Does it destroy? Well, it destroys what you consider to be something that you would hold value to, but actually it cleansed. The land was taken over. By what? Again, the deeds of man. Man, innately, that's the way we are. We're fallen. We had one rule, we mess up. So, like,
and then
again, going
after
back
the
to the
flood,
idea of stored up.
look at Noah's story with his sons. It
Mhm.
wasn't a fabulous story. It's like wow, I can't believe Noah. It's like he was a righteous man, but he did some shit, and all his sons, did their thing.
What part are you talking about?
Talking about the sons of Noah, and they witnessed him doing some crazy shit. But anyway,
Oh, what when he was what was it he was doing? Because it's like when David apparently danced naked, right? King David. He wasn't naked. Remember, he was part of the Levitical priesthood as well.
no. Well, I mean,
So like he also had his like
that's not
holy
what it meant.
robes
Yeah,
underneath.
you're right. He wasn't dancing naked, like his dick hanging out or anything like that.
Yeah, definitely not. He had his priesthood robes on underneath his
Yeah.
garments. That would have been seen as naked. It's like there's a guy that comes and throws
No, they were
everything that he
offended
owns at the
because
feet of Yahusha.
he was marching. He finally found the ark, and he was marching it back in. And that's when they had a totally different type of priesthood when they had the ark under the tent instead of in like this weird temple.
It's the same priesthood to Yahusha. You're on about the order of Melchizedek, right? But the Melchizedekian order, again, at the baptism of Yahusha, right? When he was baptized, he took on the baton of the Levitical priesthood. He became the Melchizedek, the king and priest. Like, and then through Yahusha, all of us are called to become that very same thing. It's a very powerful concept.
After David marched the ark back in, how long did they do? I can't remember. Is this like maybe 100 years? I think they had celebrated under the tent. Maybe not even that long, but then they lost it again. Because Israel. I mean, it's a story that it's the same story that all of us experience. We fail and we succeed. We fail and we succeed.
Can't get my phone to charge. It's gonna end up not working.
You understand what I'm saying, though, Craig?
Yeah.
We all have hopes and dreams, and then we never reach them. But that's not what God's saying. It's like, created you just like me. You're supposed to exist, which is the
Amen.
opposite of politics, right? Politics is a human thing, right? It's like, you freaking religious people, get the fuck out of my way. I'm a human. It's like, where do you think humans came from, you dumbass? Came from God. You wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for God. You're like, no, Big Bang, bitch. I got Big Bang all over the place. They're like, but you can't prove it. That's when people come in and it's like, what do you guys think the earth is flat? Well, it's not about flat earth wholly, WHOLLY. It's about understanding that your politics ain't going to destroy our humanity, you fucking assholes.
Well, there's an argument to suggest that many people's humanity has potentially been imbued with some form of disgusting, malicious nature because of politics, right? But I guess
Their argument would be like, well, the reason you think that is because you're religious. It's like, bitch, I've been doing this for a long time. It's not because I'm religious. I just know that you're only religious with your politics. You don't realize your politics is a religion? Dumbass. They're so dumb they can't even realize how they've been manipulated into a position where they can only think a certain way. It's the dumbest fucking shit you could ever come across. Now I'm preaching, but whatever.
Preach.
No, I'm done.
Maybe you should read the Bible, but like read it again. But and if you ever want any like stuff to look at the beginning to make it a completely different experience to what you have ever had in the church and all that shit, because churchianity ain't it whatsoever. It isn't edifying. It's the Joneses.
Yeah, I've had a
keeping up
lot of
with
good
them.
experiences in the church.
So have I, dude. I have too. But what I'm not talking about the good experiences, right? Again, I'm on about the fundamentals of
yeah, sure.
what it means.
That's what
You know
I'm
what I mean?
on
Like,
about too. Yeah, exactly, bro.
like you gotta remember, like you are supposed to end up basically being a king and priest.
Yeah.
Like through Yahusha, right? He became the Melchizedek, and then it becomes that Yahusha Hamashiach, right? Remember, he built the temple in 3 days. Remember, he rose on the third day, and then we became the temple.
Even Christians don't, even through going through freaking years and years of the teachings from the preachers that had went to college to learn the Bible and shit, and then the preachers and shit. And I've been on the platform and stuff, and I've done my shit there. It's like they don't really understand that they're more involved with politics than they are with their. They go to church every Sunday, but they're more involved in politics than
just like
church.
just like the religious leaders in Jesus' day, right? The Pharisees, the Sadducees.
Yeah, that's what it is, Bong. Right, exactly, bro.
Right, I mean, it's the same shit. They go to school, but like that's not where wisdom or it's God's spirit that anoints you. Not some school or some person's. Yeah.
No, that's right. That's exactly right. What type of phone do you guys have? Like, what type of charger what type of charging port do you have? Like,
USB C.
Mine literally every time I get a phone, it just stops working really quickly. The port Like, my phone's basically going to be broken after this. Like, if it dies, like, probably won't ever charge again. I'm realizing.
What kind of phone you got?
Like a Samsung Galaxy or whatever it is, like, that type phone.
Oh, yeah.
For fuck's sake.
Yeah. Wires. What do you call it?
It's the port,
Premature
though.
adolescent. I keep forgetting the term. You know, when they build things to break, so you buy the new thing.
Inbuilt obsolescence.
Obsolescence.
That one. How do you say it?
Obsolescence.
Built-in obsolescence, exactly. How can I force that to stay like that? I need like a hairband or some shit.
Clip.
I legit need like a hairband. That's what I need, not a clip. If I let go of it, it just pops back out. Like it's like. Maybe if I like weigh this down a little bit.
I'm trying to type this stuff in the chat. I'm just gonna say it. Do you remember the story where Samuel was called by God to go to what was the father's name of David's father? Anyway, he had a bunch of sons
Jesse.
or whatever, and then he had the
Jesse.
Jesse, and he was like, well, none of these sons were. God didn't call me to anoint any of these sons. He was like, well, I do have another son. He's out in the field, but no, he's just he's not the guy, right? And that's David, bro. And then he's like, well, until you bring him here, I'm not gonna fucking anoint anybody. As soon as he brought him there, boom, Samuel anointed David. And he was the king of Israel, right? So it's like, bro, that's one of the coolest stories I think that I like about the Bible, and then David went on to do some great shit, and just like you were talking about. After that, that's when when he was like, we're gonna get that freaking ark back from the Philistines, and he did it, right? So anyway.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
What do you think about?
Whether it's literal or not, but it's still a really good story, and it makes sense to me spiritually, and and as far as like understanding how you should act as a human, and David was never perfect, and God showed you how David was imperfect his entire life. Even after that, anyway, so we're not going
to like
this isn't a biblical discussion, or anything, but as far as
the
all
story
this
of David.
entire argument goes, it's just, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I'm just saying the story of David, or let's say, for instance, the story of Abraham, right? Like a lot of people point to these things in the Bible, and they go, listen, one sec. They turn around and say, and they point to these men, and they go, well, that's what Yah says is okay. That's not entirely true. Right? Just because these men ended up to be favored,
they were
that
chosen, just like every single person is.
Well, just listen to what I'm saying, right? I'm just saying these men were flawed. Like, Abraham ends up being the father of nations, right? At first, look at what happened with him and his wife, right? With Sarah.
Yeah,
like,
amen, brother.
She couldn't even get pregnant, right? They thought she was barren, and then Sarah was like, well, go and find yourself another woman if you want. You can go and bang her and get her pregnant. He ends up doing that, and then after that, she ends up getting pregnant anyway. listen. Then she gets pregnant anyway. My point is
There's
this, right?
only 2 tribes from her. You know, out of the 12 tribes, there's only
Listen,
2.
you're missing my point, though. You're missing my point. What I'm saying is often people make this argument that anything that's written in the Bible was what was ordained as okay and correct by Yah. That's not true. The Bible tells us stories of fallible men and points to those stories as a way of showing us how righteousness or even greatness can still be attained or achieved and reached regardless of our shortcomings. Remember, Abraham had a Abraham's wife, Sarah. You got to remember that was actually his sister.
Mm-hmm.
They had the same
Oh,
father.
yeah.
So, but the Bible doesn't state that it's all right to have sex with your sister. It actually says the opposite, that you shouldn't do so. So when people try and make the argument that, well, oh, okay, Abraham did this, therefore that makes it correct, you know? So it isn't like that. It's actually a guide as to what not to do.
Hold on.
While keeping hope.
Abraham's concubine was not his wife's sister. Where
I didn't say that.
I thought you said that.
No, I said his wife was his sister.
Sarah.
Sarah.
Well, anyway,
I don't know if that was his sister. I don't think it was, because when they went to Pharaoh to Egypt, he
Wait, it was
pretended.
his sister.
Yeah, he pretended like it was his sister instead of saying it was his. But the first cousins do marry.
Yeah, I mean,
Jacob
this
and
wasn't
all the way down.
fucking incest.
First
I
cousin
don't know
married.
that had anything to do with the Bible.
But I think those stories show how not trusting God or not taking God at His word and trying to force God's promises to happen can lead to like disasters and just terrible things that what I mean, like Sarah saying that maybe God means that you should have a child with our maiden, our servant
Dude,
woman.
she
That
agreed that he should.
because they were trying to interfere, because they were promised
She
the child.
agreed with him.
The child, the human intellect says, "I am past my age. I'm 80. Like, how in the world is this ever going to happen?" And instead of accepting that God meant you are going to literally get pregnant, and where God
Modern marriage. This is a different story. Like the 12
this is
tribes
about
of
Sarah.
Israel came from
Sarah. And then David is
came from
also
his concubine.
David is also a story of failure, and disappointment. And he is not the one, right? But he is, they call him the son of David, right? That's the one that you should follow if you want to learn how to act like a
Okay,
human
so
being.
Abraham. Who was Abraham's dad?
Yeah,
Who was
exactly.
Abraham's dad?
It even gets deeper than that, but we're not. I mean, this is a Bible channel, so we
Abraham's
can get
dad
story, whatever. Was
was like an idol. Yeah, some guy.
It's not like Abraham.
Wait there, Helio. Wait there. Right. Okay. So, Sarah. Okay. Listen. Okay. Sarah, Abraham's wife, was also the daughter of Terah. Just a different wife, different mother. Abraham and Sarah had a different mother, but the same father. So they were sisters.
Half brother, sister. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
But so close.
But let's start how he met Sarah when he went to Midian. When he went to Midian, that's how he met Sarah.
But where did Cain meet his wife? That's what I was like. Wait, Cain had to have married the sister.
No, that was way before. I'm just wondering if you guys know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't that far. Noah. Listen,
in Saudi Arabia.
Noah taught Abraham. Okay, like, what about that? Have you guys heard about that?
No, he didn't. Noah was. Wait, it went to Noah, then to Shem, then the line of Shem goes to Terah, then to Abraham, then it's Ishmael.
Yep.
Then with Sarah, it goes off to Nahor, and then Bethuel.
Surely, though, not the way I see it.
How old how old would Noah have lived? Noah and his sons would have lived. Would they have seen, what's his name, Nimrod's day? Would they
Well,
have
we
lived
know
for
I've
how
100
old
never
they,
gotten into
they
this
were.
argument before with anybody who's like, I don't.
I'm just saying it's not in the Bible that Noah taught Abraham. That's
Yeah,
all.
it's not in the
Yeah, I
Bible.
know it's not right, but I heard about it though. But then
Okay.
I asked, that's why I was asking. Like, it doesn't seem like it was that far apart, the timelines, right? From Adam to Noah. Okay, like from Adam to Noah. Um, God waited for the last righteous man to die. So that's like a lot of people reaching their hundreds of years, and then Noah was born. So Noah would have lived, as long as those people. But then I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like he would have, his life would have overlapped with some.
With Noah, I mean, he was like freaking what 800 years old. But toward the end of
Yeah.
his time, that's when the flood happened. It's,
That was the beginning of his life. Yeah, yeah. If you were 100, that's like it's like being in your teens these days. Like 100 years old.
Yeah, well,
Like
you live up to like 800 at that point.
yeah, yeah. Oh man.
but prior to that, yeah, I mean, and there's a good portion of Noah's descendants in the Bible, and just go, so and so begat this, and so begat so and so. And if you concentrate enough on it, you'll find out it's pretty much the same family line. But just like I was saying, it's like, how is David connected? Shit, now I forgot what I was saying earlier.
Well, you've got so the line of David, right, is
It's the king. It's the king, Lion King, basically. It's Disney.
well, yeah, of course, it's the king and with David, it's the king and priesthood line, the Melchizedekian. You got
Yes,
the
the
first
line of
Melchizedek, El
Melchizedek.
Elyon.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You have El Elyon, okay, which is Elyon meaning I'm on about the place, right? And then
What the fuck are the Jews supposed to do with Jesus?
well, the Jews don't really have that.
Crucify him.
The Jews don't even come up in the Bible either. I don't even understand this
Are
about
you
the Jews.
fucking
Like
serious?
the Jews aren't in the Bible.
That's
Show me
true.
one place
All
in
right,
the
all
Bible
right.
where it
Well,
says
hey,
Jew.
no. You're exactly right, but we shouldn't talk about that here.
Just saying. Like I had an
As a
argument with
matter
someone
of
the other
fact,
day, and they were like,
let's
"Oh
not talk
shit."
about that here. You're exactly right.
How about the sauce? You scared of the sauce? You don't like juice?
But
See, that's what
David
I
was
was
born
getting
in
at.
Jesse,
The
wasn't he?
Bible story has nothing to do with the Jews at all. But anyway, that's we're not going to talk about
Well, they're not even in it.
it.
It talks about some
Wait,
tribes and shit,
So,
but
all right, come
wait a
on.
minute.
How
Wait a
about
minute.
do this on a live stream, please?
Getting
Who
juicy.
was that? Who was that was saying, "Crucify him, so his blood can be on us and our children for generations"?
The
Who were those
Jews.
people?
Those are
The juice.
they're Eastern, like Prussians and fucking Russians and shit. Yeah, those are the fake Jews. But anyway, see, I told you we shouldn't talk about this. Anyway,
well, it's
let's
just
not
It's
talk
okay
that
about
word
because
isn't used.
Jesus said that forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. So we are too are in that crowd. That crowd that said crucify him. You,
the white
me,
people had to
we're
learn this shit,
all
and you're a
we're
brown
all those
Samoa.
people.
Do
And
any
yet
of you
he
remember how many
loved them. That's the point.
had?
He said he loved you anyway because you knew that you didn't know what you were doing or saying.
Do anyone remember how many concubines that David had, and then how much worse it got by the time it went to Solomon?
I mean, when
So,
you're the king, dude, it's like,
well,
damn.
David kept it kind of like
Conservative.
conservative at 10 concubines, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then Bathsheba, which is Solomon's mum, I believe, right? She was the one that spoke of like a Proverbs 31 woman, right? You know, we have that whole description there, I believe it. I think it's referring to Solomon and the way he was being, because he was a right little fucker, mind my French, when it comes to, he had 700 wives and 300 concubines, apparently.
Well, it's 3 wives and concubine. Something like that. Doesn't
1,000
matter.
women.
It's
1,000
1,000.
women.
It's 1,000
Yeah.
women. Doesn't matter. It's like that takes 3 years to go through them. Like, damn, man.
Yeah, one a night. Like, wow. I can't even imagine that, bro. Like, one woman's like enough to deal with.
I mean, most of those marriages are political. Could be like political. I heard he did love women. So you might be right, man. Guys were pimping. I mean, this guy was like,
Yeah, man. 700 wives and 300 concubines. Like
right?
wedding processions went on for days back then. Remember this, guys, right? So, like, we've got Solomon getting married 700 times. So we're talking like about a good, what, 20 years of just getting married every day, right? 20 years of his life spent being in the marriage ceremony.
He married like these crazy ass women, man, but because they were beautiful, right? Like damn, I wonder if somebody like Kim Kardashian would be in that list.
Without a doubt.
Simple to my
Anyone
God.
who wants.
Sorry.
It's true though. Any woman he wanted. It's King Solomon. I remember reading about the 10 wives of David, and I went, what a whore. He had 10 concubines. Yeah? And then like, you ain't heard the half of it. You heard about Solomon? My man Solomon over here got like 700 wives and 300 concubines. I'm like, what? That's next level sluttery, you know?
and your daddy had to pay me. Boom. Oh.
Are you talking about, I guess, the like a
666 pounds of gold that has to be delivered every year from so and so, and 666.
But you're talking about a dowry, right?
But what? Not the
dowry.
Yeah, the tributes, the money that was flowing in, all the blessings.
You gotta remember back then the dowry system wasn't like necessarily fully enforced. It was more like inheritance based, right? At the king level, I don't know what that would include, but often like if it was someone from the tribe of Judah, right? Someone from Ham, or like it would be goats, you know? Well, often they were taught to stay within inside of their own tribe as to not lose any of the animals or produce or whatever it was that was part of the inheritance.
The value.
Because it's like, keep it within the tribe, bro. Like, you know, it's like spending money outside your own town, you know?
The Antichrist, when he shows up, he's going to be like Solomon. He's going to be super smart. He's going to have all, the same kind of, like, you know what I mean? Like,
it's going to be swag.
Swag, yeah, the same aura, type of person. Because that's who they worship anyways. The Freemasons, it's who they get there,
He will be so Christian like. He will really look like if you would meet Lucifer himself, you would think he is actually a follower or disciple of the Most High, because even he himself disguises to be exactly that, right? Like you would think you're talking to the nicest and smartest person out there, you know. Because what you gotta admit to is he knows humans since the beginning. He knows how we think. He knows everything way better, you know, regarding what we are than we do actually, because he was always there. So he would deceive. Or, I mean, that's what he's doing, but he would you would probably not understand or know that he is it if it wouldn't be for maybe revelation by the Holy Spirit showing you what he is truly.
Well, there's another way of looking at it, which is that when we do eventually see him, not necessarily when he says the Antichrist, but when we see the enemy, he'll be such a small character, so measly and pathetic, and we'll end up being like, wow, I'd given all this power to that person, to that thing, that decrepit golem.
Ultimately, he has no power under the blood of the Most High. But if you're not under the blood and truly saved, you're one of him. So the thing is, who do you serve, right? Whom do you serve? That's the true question that you need to ask yourself.
I know exactly who I serve, yeah.
And on the other hand, you know, the ultimate goal is to bring up a false Messiah who's going to unite all the belief systems and, you know, all these churchgoers and many people on this world, because they're already used to, you know, all the programming. I mean, that's what Lucifer is doing, right? Making sure that people, you know, trust their TV and news anchor, smartphone, and so forth. And what he's going to do is bring up this false Messiah who's going to unite the world religions, and he's going to be the Antichrist, which many people will then you know, follow. And you know, things like what we see in the past 2 years are just a conditioning program for these bots. You know, for people who are already, you know, there's some people, I gotta admit, that you can talk to them however you want. They're just blindly following the broad road. You know, unfortunately. And they will fall for this great science and wonders that's going to be shown on TV and real life and whatnot. He's going to probably do the greatest miracles as false Messiah. You know, maybe raising the dead, or you know, helping the poor, you know, huge scale and so forth. You know, I mean, the same things that in this world, in Satan's kingdom, are you know, miserable the same way as he makes sure to them to be miserable, the same way he can, you know, also revert certain things for his own need of mass deception, right? So yeah, there's a lot of things that are yet to come that have not yet happened, and it's just, you know, important to truly know who the real Messiah is and how he is going to come into place, like a thief in the night, on a time where no one would expect him to come back. So not on TV, not, you know, like he was once riding on a donkey, right? So, or he was born in a barn. The same way, when he's gonna come back, people will not expect him to come back, and then they're gonna be weeping and crying.
This time he's going to come back with a sword, bro.
Yeah, yes, but
he is a sword. He's the living word, right? But
and with fire.
Yep, with what
He's
you would
gonna
call
kill many.
yishi or isha, which is the same word for woman or wife or husband, right? Fire.
I had a vision about this, you know, about everything being burned down, and I was walking through a street, and I saw, you know, a lot of in front of the yards, a lot of like completely burned down bodies, but it wasn't like, I wasn't scared at all, you know.
Okay, wait there. Because you said that. Because you said that, let me just say something, because your bit's already laid out, right? So I had a vision, right, which was like entropy. It was the pouring out of Yah's ruach, his spirit, his breath, effectively onto the earth, right? And it was like the earth beneath us, okay? It was like entropy. So the places that were devoid of the spirit of Yah, the ruach of Yah, were like low pressure points, right? Devoid of this. They were privations of the ruach. So when it bust through and it was poured out onto these things, it did so with such veracity and such friction as it was skating past the walls or past the bodies of the people. It was the friction and the punching nature of that busting into the privations that were of a low energy, right? Of a low pressure point. And it was like entropy. In this rapid entropy, the areas, however, that were again rich in the ruach, in the spirit, it slowly flowed into these and just equilibrialized, right? And in doing so, it didn't create so much damage. But it's almost like the light itself. Again, it was not Yah destroying. It was like it's again like the second law of thermodynamics. It's entropy, right? It's energy transfer exchange. The same reason I give for like the idea of hell, right? Like, well, Yah doesn't destroy people's souls, so like again, they probably have to be put somewhere to be held for eternity, unfortunately. And eventually, it was like the very floor beneath me, yeah, cracked up, and people fell through that ground on fire. The floor stayed there, however, for the people that were in his favor, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I had no revelation in that vision about what happened beforehand. I was just walking down this casual neighborhood street, seeing all these completely destroyed houses where literally no brick was laying upon the other, and people in front of the houses completely burned down. But the weird thing about it was, normally if you would have a dream seeing these kind of things, you would be freaked out or anything. But for me, it was like a calm, almost as you would lay on a beach kind of feeling, like a good feeling. I don't know how to explain it. Like as if something was done that needed to be done. And that's definitely, definitely after, the wheat was,
Separated
passed to
from
the
the chaff.
oven. Yeah.
Yep. The wheat and the tares, right?
Yeah. Hey, and
the
another
separation they're in.
crazy thing, and it's just an assumption. Yesterday I was because here in Germany we have very big heat wave and perfect blue sky in the night.
Yeah. Same here.
And I was looking into the sky and looking at the stars, and when I looked at the stars, for me it kind of looked like as if the Most High put like had a needle and poke some dots into the sky, and above there's like pure light. It's just an assumption, just for fun. I'm not saying that that's what it is, but as if he wanted to show the light which is from above on the highest place, right? Like poking through a little bit, to give you an idea of how much light is up there, because it's just pure light, right? Where he dwells. But I mean, that's just an idea of mine, because we do not actually know, what these lights are that are placed in there, right? So
yeah, without doubt.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I haven't, I gotta, for driving a car, I need to have wear glasses, and I haven't seen the stars as polka dots, I always seen them as blurry, and I was like, man, what? This is how stars look like actually? They're like literally like these very nice round dots. It really blew my mind, because I already forgot about that,
What part of Germany are you from?
The Rhineland, Palestine, yeah.
Oh, cool, man. I've heard you speak before. I do like you. I think you're a cool guy. I genuinely mean that as well.
Thank you, man. I like you too.
Yeah, you got a lot of grace about yourself. Like, I like the way you speak. And the way you the way you present yourself. It's awesome. Do you have you looked much into the Hebrew at all?
Oh yeah, a bit, yeah.
So, I think the Hebrew and I'm not talking about like going back to Judaism. I'm not talking about that, okay? Because Judaism really isn't something that I don't believe was really ever followed. The Torah, however, right, the instruction, right, which would mean it means law. Like Paul said, all scripture is good for instruction. I think, for instance, we look at pagan holidays like Christmas, right? They serve the purpose of apparently bringing families together, but anyone that's honest with themselves will admit that, well, it gives us one day where we meet up in the year and actually keeps us away from our family for the rest, right?
Right.
And like Yahushua HaMashiach even, I believe, expanded on the Torah, right? You know, telling us that if you hate a man in your heart, you murder him. You know, the same with if you look at a woman with lust in your heart, you again have committed adultery. And then I'm just sort of, I guess what I'm saying is that when we look, so right, language itself is being confounded right now, right? Like with the Tower of Babel, people wanted to be their own El, right? They wanted to be their own Elohim. They wanted to reach up to the stars and effectively find the heavens and go into the throne rooms. But so when I'm saying this, I guess what I'm getting at is that what would make something, what's something that cannot be twisted? Well, we'd need a self-referential language, right? And what's a self-referential language? One that effectively talks of concepts instead of words that are exact, that explain concepts or verbs or adjectives. So what that means is each individual letter would need to be self-referential in the sense that it represents already a complete constructed concept. So we take the Aleph from the Hebrew. The Aleph is what? It's an ox, you know, with horns on its head or a crown on its head. It's the ultimate like Reish, the ultimate Reish meaning the crown, right? This would be representative of Abba Yah himself, of Yah, right? And this concept, so when we take it to pictographic, the Paleo Hebrew, and we look into the Aleph Beit, the alphabet, okay, these concepts and these individual letters are self-referential, which means that they can't be twisted, right? Because it's a complete concept. The concept's not drawn by putting these things together and these things represent a sound. No, they represent whole concepts already. The mem, the wav, right? Like, you know, one thing is, you know, how can you mess up the concept of a seed sprouting out, you know, or a womb or a body of water? And then what these pictographic things, when conjoined together, explain, right? Like Yahusha, we have Yod, Aleph, right? Hey, what's the next part? Something Samic, and then no, it's not Samic. It might be. Is it Samic or is it Sadi? I can't remember. But in the end, when you look at the concepts, it ends up being the salvation that comes forth out of the hand of Yah, right? Like, and the concept literally speaks of this because the pictograph shows that very thing acted out, you know? So like, and then when we look at scripture, it's incredibly close. The Old Testament's incredibly close to the Paleo. All the little bits in there that didn't quite sit right with your own Ruach, that you're like, well, that doesn't sound quite right. You switch out the words to what they're more closely transliterated to the Hebrew, and it's like, wow, that makes so much more sense, right? I'm just saying, I think in these days where truth itself is being completely confounded by language being confounded, I think the study of just the letters, you could just study the letters alone, the concepts of the individual letters of the Aleph Beit or the Aleph Tav, right, the A to Z, as it were, of the Hebrew. Obviously, there's not A to Z, it's a couple of less letters in the Paleo. Just keep it in mind. It's something to maybe look into, and if you ever want to look into it.
I have already looked into it. Yeah. So what I wanted to say is, by the way, as a fun fact, and especially like I'm not sure if it's also in the New Hebrew, but in the Old Hebrew language, you have no curse words There's no cuss words or curse words or whatever, which is pretty cool. On the other hand, what I see lately, which I think it's important, what comes out from your lips and so forth. But what I always come to my mind sometimes when I also see at the fruit of certain people. I'm not talking about you, right? But on YouTube, whatnot. It really reminds me often of Matthew 15, where it says, "These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me." You know, like there's a lot of these Hebrew Israelites and so forth, and
Oh
I
yeah.
mean they come up with all these great things of saying, you need to say this and that, but on the other hand, they refer to things that are just not true, right? For example, I mean, the Messiah himself told us that there's neither Jew nor Greek and anything else. It's not about the outward appearance of where you're from or what your genetics are, because ultimately he came to save everyone who would truly repent, right? He came to make people repent, not just a certain selective type of people and so on. So I personally think it's great to look into the Hebrew, but what is also important is that we not just focus on honoring with the lips, but also have our hearts completely focused on the Most High,
I
and also
completely agree.
acting upon that, right? And
Okay,
also
so with that.
keeping the simplicity, right?
Okay, so if we love Yah, right, what we would do would be we would join in union with him and understand what it is that his message and what his word is and what he's trying to convey to us. And I'm talking about, so like, there's a guy that I would like to refer you to. He's called Eric Bissell. This isn't Hebrew roots. This isn't anything like that. Okay, not at all. I myself dislike the
Can I
Hebrew root
just
movement
jump in for
completely.
a second?
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying that in the Hebrew language there's no expletives? That's what I thought I heard him say, because I think in every single language there are expletives.
There are ways of creating an expletive, because you could have a word that you could then use in a way that's not good.
So what's the
But
difference? Well, I mean, just like, hey, when I say fuck, I just say fuck. It's just part of my.
there
the
aren't any
way
like innate ones. No, there aren't any like innate swear words. I believe there are in the Yiddish, maybe now.
Yeah, and
but
Yiddish,
like,
maybe, but Yiddish are those Jews anyway? That's a different story.
but like
When you jump
he's talking about, I guess, the Pharisaical people, and I agree, bro. Like, only to love him with the lips, right? That's to be a Pharisee. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about gaining further insight into the very essence of who Yah is, and the essence of his creation, and the essence of everything to do with Yah through these letters. The Mishkan pattern, okay, this amazing concept that I'm sort of just getting into myself right now, to do with the Aleph Tav and the individual letters. It's all about his creation and his heart, the whole thing. And we're talking about how the very individual letters from the beginning of the Aleph Beit, from the beginning of from Aleph all the way to Tav, it speaks of his creation. It speaks of the salvation as well that he was to give us, right? And it's a completely different way of looking at it. It's not like becoming legalistic Hebrew rootist types people, that are like, how do I put it, like, that are just becoming dogmatic and doctrinal and doctrines of men. Not at all. And because I completely would be against that,
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of. I don't know if I should bring it up, but fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyway. A lot of people are just like you were saying, Hebrew root stuff. They're just like, oh, the law is that, just like a lot of flat earthers like bring it up all the time, talking about, oh, Sabbath. Really know what the Sabbath? This is the way I think about it. I don't think they really know what the Sabbath is, because they're, I mean, are you following like Paul's thing? You get what I'm getting at? You know what you
Of
smell? What
course I
I'm
do.
like Paul's gospel. You know, the gospel. Like
It wasn't Paul's
Paul's
gospel. It was Yahusha's
no, no,
gospel,
no, no.
Jesus'
Well, sure,
gospel. But
he met him on the road to Damascus. He blinded him and told him,
Did he though?
This is what you're supposed to tell everyone. And now, if you discount Paul, then you totally miss the point.
you can't discount Paul.
Well, I mean, I don't think the people that are doing their freaking Hebrew roots thing are discounting Paul. I just think they totally.
No, they do.
They do discount him. Go ahead. Because I don't.
Yep.
I think so too. So fuck it. Yeah, I do too. I think they discount what Paul said because he freaking went to Peter and said, "You're trying to make all the white people a Jew." And he's like, "That's not what Jesus was saying."
No, they do discount. They actually end up throwing Paul out completely.
Yeah.
That's how it
Really,
starts, and then they
you think
eventually
you're
follow
gonna
the whole
find
New Testament.
salvation through following the law? And that's what Paul was trying to tell him the whole time, you know. Anyway, that's the way I feel about it. This isn't a religious channel or anything, but I mean, it's late Sunday night or whatever. But you know, with all even with a lot of the Hebrew roots people or whatever they're doing, it's like Shabbat, Shalom, bitch. You ain't freaking a Jew. You a white man trying to keep the Sabbath when you can't.
Well, you can.
That was Jesus's point and Paul's point.
Not quite.
Sort of.
Not quite.
Look, bro.
Not quite. Yahusha kept every Sabbath, just to let you know.
No, I'm just saying. Paul was saying, "Hey, Jesus said, hey, I know I didn't come here to establish the law, but I came to fulfill it, and you're no longer under that law anymore."
That's not what he said.
That's not what he said. He said, "Do not even think for a minute that I came to abolish the law, that I came to fulfill it." I'm going to be honest right now, okay?
Yeah.
Yahusha personally kept the Sabbath, right? Every time, right? He kept every feast as well, also, okay? The law itself, you will not be saved by it. However, in honor of Yah, you can still attempt to follow it, right? There are parts of the law, however, that are not whatsoever anything to do with Torah, which is just the law, okay? Moshe, the one that had the Torah dictated to him at that time, and the Ten Commandments, you got to remember that there are lots of
Wait,
Jews, Talmudic Jews that added stuff.
He had those laws introduced to him twice, right?
Right.
Moses.
Mm-hmm.
First time he went up there, came back down from the mountain. Everybody was worshiping the golden calf. He got frustrated. Boom! Threw the tablets out and broke them. Then he'd go back second time to get the real, 10 Commandments again written down. Am I wrong?
Following God's law should be easy if you
It is
listen to
easy.
Jesus. See, Jesus said all you have to do to cover all the commandments is this one commandment: love your neighbor as much as you say you love God and yourself. You're good. I mean,
But that speaks of the Ten Commandments anyway, because the first commandment, what's the first commandment? It isn't even a commandment.
Love the Lord God above everything. Love the Lord God.
The first commandment is literally an introduction to
no
who
other
Yah
gods
is.
before me.
Right? Well,
you
think about it.
can't say you love God if you can't love your neighbor, or if you hate someone without reason. How can you love God when you hate this guy for no good reason?
Right. So let
he
me.
said this one is like
Yes,
that.
exactly, Bong. That's actually a thing that I come upon very often. People say they are loving people, especially in the New Age movement, so forth. People say they love each other, but actually, the thing is what people do not understand. If you truly are a loving being, which means you love unconditionally, which means you have no difference between loving your mom, your dad, your sister, or the hobo on the street, right? There is no difference. Okay, so you can't divide love into saying, okay, I love that neighbor a little bit less than I actually have that love and passion for my mom and dad, and then I'm gonna put some more love into my fiance, and that's not love. That has nothing to do with love. That's acting. Real love means unconditionally. That means no matter what you're standing in front of as a human being, you love them equally to whoever else you're gonna be confronted with. Okay, which also includes your enemies, which also includes someone who punches you in the face. As hard as it might sound. But that's possible. It is possible if you truly come to a conclusion of what love is, and especially the love that the Messiah has gave to us as a what is it called? As how he did it. What is that called? Vorbild.
Example. It's an example of how
Yes.
to live. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why also all commandments, by doing so, are being kept. But to come to that point is not easy because it also includes you. I mean,
and what
it
I'm
also
saying,
includes yourself.
What I was getting at with, some people say, "Hey, are you following Peter's or Paul's?" Peter was following for a certain time, like Book of Acts is my favorite book. I ain't gonna lie. In the Bible, Book of Acts is my favorite. There was a portion of time where Peter was trying, he didn't like Paul, and they didn't like each other. Well, I don't know about Paul's,
There's a
but
story that apparently Paul was trying to kill
Paul
Peter at
met
one point.
Jesus. Yeah, well, but Peter met Jesus. Paul never met him face to face until he had, the scales pulled over his eyes on the road to Damascus, right? But after that, Paul met Jesus, right? Peter was one of his disciples. Bro, I mean, at a certain point, there was going to be a connection right there. And that's described in the Book of Acts. And it was really cool. I thought it was cool. And they had a conflict, and Paul called him out, saying, "Hey, man, it's not just Jews that are saved; it's everybody."
How I think the way Jesus was telling people to perform this, to act out of love, he kept saying, right? He kept saying, like, serve one another, right? He even washed his disciples' feet, like like he said after he got baptized, he started going around like doing things that the priests should have been doing, right? Like, preparing people to go in, healing people and they're like, you know what I mean? So it's like this is what we're supposed to be doing, right? Like, right?
Yeah. If someone
Like
asks you
Stephen,
to go one mile, go another mile with him, Put yourself to be a servant for your neighbor,
yeah, and, these churches, these big churches, like a lot of money, and there are poor people and homeless people living right outside of them. It's like that can't be real. That can't be a real church.
But what the Bible speaks of the way that we're supposed to live. Listen, how do you find out about your neighbors and what's wrong with them? What does the Bible speak on that? How do we commune with our brothers and sisters? How are we commanded to do so? Do you believe it's in congregations like churches that we currently have and the state of the church and the way it is with churchianity? Do you think that's the
No.
model in which Abiyah are intended for us?
No, because the church is the temple, which is our body, which the Most High, which the Spirit of the Most High dwells in, which means that it also makes sense in the full picture of why he says that all commandments are being, hold by loving each other, loving your neighbor as yourself, right? Because we honor each other's temple and the person which is behind it, right? The very thing that you have been created
Oh,
to
I
be.
understand that.
Right.
Listen, I understand exactly how it works, right? If you take the first 4 commandments, okay, yeah, at the point of when it becomes the physical, okay, which is when it says honor your mother and your father, right? Which is almost to say honor creation that is outside of yourself also, because that's the point of being birthed. It's the point of surpassing from the water into life. But before that, it only speaks on what? It speaks on Yah. It speaks on if you do this, you serve me, okay, and me alone. If you do not also take my name in vain, if you do not make graven images of me, you shall have no other El but me. If you simply follow those precepts already, remember it's that his ruach will live inside of you. And in doing so, it becomes that it's not exactly hard to stop yourself from murdering or being an adulterer or, coveting after your neighbor's things. The point in those two commandments that you speak on, those are not like new. Those are the same commandments of the past. By following those two, it's the idea that in them it can encompass that if you act that out genuinely, you will also keep the 10 commandments. So it's not to say, and this is the issue that people get, that you don't have to keep the 10 commandments. You only have to keep these two. No, you still have to keep the 10 commandments, right? That's just the way it is. But in keeping those two, you're technically within the lines of the 10 commandments. It covers it, right? So what does that say? And when I say, how do you find out about what's going on with your neighbor? I'll ask both of you right now. What's your next door neighbor's name? Do you know it? Do you know
Yes.
both your neighbors' names?
Yep.
Do you know their problems? Right?
No.
And then your community, what does it look like? Right?
Right, but I would also say neighbor, as in all brothers and sisters you meet during the day. I mean, it's not just depending on whether someone lives right next to you, right?
No.
Essentially, if you think about it, because we live in an enclosed system, everyone is your neighbor, right?
Well,
because we're all living in this one big shell.
I'm talking about if the church isn't what it is, okay? Churchianity,
Yeah.
everyone going on a Sunday. I'll tell you one commandment that you cannot keep just by those 2 commandments in the 10 commandments. You can't keep the Sabbath. And the Sabbath, if you think about what it actually is, it's a command that you will keep that day as a set apart day. That set apart day, okay, will be the day of rest. Actually, it will be the day that you respect, that Yah has given to you. It's a day of actually communing with Him, right? It's a day that we're supposed to keep to commune with Him, and it's very important. I believe the Sabbath. I think it's more important than people know.
The problem is, that's not a problem. I mean, the thing that I just face is, since we have a false calendar with, the Sunday, the moon day, the Tuesday, or whatnot, in German it's even worse. We don't really know exactly. I mean, there are people making calendars and having some assumptions, but 100% we don't know which day would be the Sabbath according to the beginning of time or the beginning of keeping the Sabbath. Right? So, I personally think what is important to just have a day in a week where you completely just maybe go into the forest and relax. And I'm guilty of not keeping the Sabbath, right? I'm guilty of that. And I need to repent about that because I should keep the Sabbath.
Mm-hmm. I think there is ways of knowing, right, when the Sabbath was. The Last Supper was on. Did it land on a Sabbath as well as? I can't remember. I'm trying to think. But anyway, yeah, like again, it's a set apart day, right? But it talks about this. It says that the time and the dates and time itself will be changed. It talks about that in Daniel. It talks about the little horn, the Catholic Church, right? The little
The
horn of number
Gregorian
10.
calendar. Yeah.
Yeah, it talks that we will have the Gregorian calendar, that they'll change,
and the
starting of
days.
New Year. Yeah, the starting of New Year will be, changed to the dead of winter,
Right.
as opposed to obviously the New Year beginning at the beginning of spring, at the beginning of the day and the first day of spring, right?
They no, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just want to say they literally changed everything, right? I mean, they're not even the calendar, but history, everything. I personally think we can't be 100% sure at what stage we're in right now regarding time. You know?
Yes, they change it.
Definitely. Definitely. I think there are definitely ways of sort of looking into it a bit more. I think the most simplistic thing for a calendar, right, is to line it up with some the jubilees, right? And I can try and maybe get a copy of it to you because I've got a calendar that a group of people that I know have been working on for quite a long time, people that are very learned in this stuff and gone back to the Hebrew, and they've gone all the way back to what day it was that Yahushua died, as opposed to like what days it was during the feast days, going even further back than that, correlation of like new moons and looking at not just the lunar but the solar as well, and working out exactly where roughly the Sabbath is, right? I'm yet to start doing the calendar. I've just been doing it on a Saturday, right, and keeping it as a set apart day and saying, yeah, I don't know when your Sabbath is, they're going to hide it from me, but I'm still going to keep the format in which you set out, right? Which is that there's a day that needs to be set apart, and on that day that's set apart, I won't make other men work for me, and I won't work even for you, right? But how many degrees does a circle have?
I think working for God, doing the good work is
I don't mean working for God. I mean I won't work as in doing work of sweat at the brow, right? The only work you do on the Sabbath is that between you and Yah, right?
Yeah. Can we define work? Jesus was like, look, if one of you guys had a cow fall into a hole on the Sabbath, would you not pull it out? It's like, so that's not work. Cool.
That's different.
Cool.
Yeah,
I can do that, right? So it's like,
yeah, of course.
that's what he's saying. It's like if you can heal somebody on Sabbath, I wish I had met some men of God that can actually heal people, but I haven't. But, do it. That's what he's saying, right? So,
Well, yeah, like I don't think we should. It shouldn't stop us from helping an old lady quickly on the Sabbath, right? Like, but we're talking about commerce, right? We're talking about like legitimate, like a job,
profit.
right? Like,
yeah,
like I'm trying to make money and all of that stuff, right? It should be devoid of all of that.
Survival work. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no problem with earning money, right? But once there comes greed into it, right? Greed about money, then that's the root of or the beginning of evil things, right?
The love of money, yeah.
Yeah, and the love of money, yes, exactly. Greed and love about money, that's bad. But actually, working to earn money, to have a sustainable living with a house and a car, and I mean, as long as you don't make these things your idol, you can have a nice car, you can have a nice house, but just keep in mind that all things are not on your behalf. They're just because of the grace that has been put upon your life. But it's nothing that has any worth at the end of life, because that's why because we need to really the most important treasures are the ones that we save up in heaven, right? Because there are no thief and nothing can destroy it or steal it. Yeah. But I'll be honest, man, I'm also guilty. Sometimes it's just this carnal mind, this, what John also refers to as the law within our members in the flesh. Sometimes the flesh wants to, think, oh, actually I need this or that, or maybe this would suit me, or it's a constant. it's a constant bet. It's like there is no. I think if people say there is an end to being a soldier, like now you're retired as a soldier, there's no battle. Now you're like the fully safe person or whatever people imagine it to be. Then you're in a bad place, because I think as long as you're on this battleground in this kingdom of darkness, if there's no battle against things, especially your sinful carnal mind, your flesh, and then there's something wrong.
So you at least know that once saved, always saved. OSAS is a lie from the enemy, right?
Yes, because that can lead to this thinking that I'm just gonna relax and I fought my battles and now I'm wise or something. That leads to actually being religious.
That's your own L. That's becoming your own L.
Yeah.
Because I think it's very important that people understand that, again, we don't keep the Torah or try to keep the Torah because works will in some way be that saves us. No. I personally follow the feast days, don't do Christmas, try and keep the Sabbath, all of that, right? The feast days are brilliant, bro. Like it's a way of coming together with your family. Sukkot, have you ever heard of Sukkot? Do you know what that is?
No.
8 days in the wilderness, bro.
No,
like all of the believers that right? When do the brothers and sisters truly have fellowship, right? And how do you do that when around your own homes, right, you have keeping up with the Joneses type concepts attached? We're at our homes, we have our things at our homes, and we're supposed to meet at eye level, and just because of the love we have for Yah and for Yahushua HaMashiach's ways, and we're supposed to just meet at eye level on those concepts alone. Not the concepts of our life, our cars, all of that, right? But that stuff blurs our mind. Definitely does. But Sukkot is like brilliant, right? It's like, oh yeah, all of you brothers and sisters come together and go out into the wilderness together.
Right. And by the way, another important thing about the battle against this world is what we have been also appointed to do, which is expose darkness, and which is also, showing people what is wrong, opening your mouth, exposing the kingdom of darkness which means being like a candle in a dark room, right? That you put on a pedestal, and even as much darkness that there is, all the darkness is gonna see that one light. So if you're gonna go out there as an example, also as let's make people or show them what's wrong in this kingdom of darkness, not just preaching. I mean, all for this importance also preaching gospel, but by so also bring truth that exposes the evil mechanisms that we have all been born into, right? So this is not like because you need to do work or anything else. That's just the spiritual battle. What would a soldier do in order to get as many other brothers and sisters that are still lost out of the chains? They're gonna fight with everything they have as a weapon, which is also knowledge, about the darkness, to expose them and make them aware of what chains are actually on their hands, because most of our fellow brothers and sisters that are still enslaved, they don't see the chains because some other brothers have not yet had the courage to actually expose these chains to them so they can actually see them and be aware of them and say, okay, now I also need to fight against these chains and make sure to get rid of them, right? And what I see a lot in Christianity today is, we rather just not talk about politics. We just rather not talk about the ways of the world and the mechanisms of Satan, right? Because everyone has their own opinion on pharmakia or this or that. Yes, I see a lot of cowardness or not really having a backbone when it comes to really standing against this dark kingdom that we are living in. And that's really something that disappoints me a lot. Okay, and it's not also with Christians, also within the truth movement. Some people want to keep certain topics out, which are actually important to talk about.
Yeah, I think it's because most of those so-called Christians are not Christians. They're actually part of this hybrid pagan system they call Christianity. These people who celebrate Christmas, these people who party on the Sabbath and then go to worship on the Sunday.
Right.
You know, these so-called Christians also have to, watch the because it's from the state, and it's also the Freemasons and the Catholics. It's all the occult. It's all control. It's Satan's church. These are Satan's deceptions, and the real church is none of those things. It's a spiritual church. It's
Right.
yeah, it's just people doing things. That. But yeah, it's that's why it looks like that, because it's not
Right.
what we think it
And
is.
and let's think about, right, why we have our private in our relationship with the Most High, our fights as a soldier. What is the greatest weapon that which was given upon us? Revelation, word, and our mouth, right? To be a voice, be a tool for the Most High, in order for Him to actually, expose darkness. What was the very reason of why we had disciples? Why we had, for example, Moses, or why we had John and all the other ones who went out and preached, who went out and exposed the darkness in the day and age, right? Because there were tools, like we are, like we should be as soldiers and disciples of the Most High. We need to open our mouth and not be quiet. Okay? No matter, we're not here to please man. That's very important. I know sometimes it's hard. You don't want to destroy a conversation. You don't want to make people's feeling. I understand that, but that's carnal mind thinking. What is important is that truth sometimes need to hurt in order to people who are still enslaved to make aware of, actually these things are holding me down. Actually, he's true about that. There are chains, there are things I have not looked into that I ignored and so forth, right? So it's so important that we open our mouth, which were given unto us, right? And preach, the gospel, preach against these wickedness and high places and so forth. It's just important that we talk about it, right? And this medium here on Discord, for example, is one place, right? Where you can reach people, it's just, we're living in times where actually many people, even though we don't realize, many people, especially the young generation, they're hungry for truth. There are many people I have already talked to where I literally realized that there's hunger for it. There's interest actually into why they're feeling this way, as, why is this world so weird, because trust me, living in the matrix, completely in the matrix, these people are aware of that there's something wrong, because they're living 100% against the ways of what has been actually laid out to be the best way to live, which is by being in a relationship with Yah and keeping His commandments. And many people living in a world where they have been taught the complete opposite, right? Where they actually live the complete opposite, which then leads to total confusion and destruction and pain and suffering that they don't even find explanation to, where then they are drawn into this pharmakia, where they can only feed their flesh with drugs and to actually make a living, and that's something we see in a very young age of my generation. People are already so used to taking pharmaceuticals and being here and there and never standing still. I mean, there's a whole movement of live fast, die young and stuff, right? There's like no worth to what you have been gifted and so forth. And these are all the things we need to come against, right? There's so many things. And, I certainly don't want to be a man pleaser anymore. I don't care, whatever. If someone want to say, you're talking trash, you're this or that, it doesn't matter. I know what my father thinks about me, and that's everything that matters, right? It doesn't matter which priest, which and most enlightened, which wisdom carrying people, or either just a normal casual guy, whatnot. It doesn't matter what flesh and blood is talking about me or you as a disciple. It only matters what the Most High knows about you, right? Because He essentially knows everything, every thought, everything. So let's not just be afraid, right? Of just saying, "Oh, it's flat." I mean, if just say it, then there's no blood on your hands. If someone is talking about space and all that stuff, you're just gonna say space is fake, it's flat. And then either they're gonna be interested to know why you're saying this, or they're gonna say you're just stupid. And you're like, okay, if you think I'm stupid, it's okay, man. If you, I mean, I can explain to you why it is the way it is. But if you're not interested, then just think I'm stupid. If you think so, I don't care. I know what the truth is about the cosmos. So, yeah. Anyways, long talk. I'm sorry. I'm gonna head out anyways because I gotta do some stuff. But I love as always, I love these conversations on here. I highly appreciate it. And I love every one of you in here. And, I wish everyone a very nice day and just a big thank you to all of you, right? For the guy here, Bong and Craig Willen that I talked to.
Yeah,
and also
bro.
everyone else who's listening. Be blessed by the Most High.
You
And
too, bro.
you too.
Good talk, man.
Thank you, guys. See you later. Maybe.
Yeah. Take it easy. God bless.
God bless you too, man.
Later, bro.
Danny, that's your logic. You're not understanding, right? Maybe you should talk to me with voice, okay? You're claiming the Bible is scholarly work. That's work of man. That's your claim, not mine. I'm not claiming it was work of man in the first place. So I'm talking of your logic when I'm saying misquoting that which was not perfect transliterated, right? Meaning, that's what you're telling me. That this thing wasn't a scholarly work, which was an appeal to a man construct, a man-made construct. You're not even understanding that it's the Ruach HaKodesh that informed the scripture in the first place, not scholarly work, right? Interpretation of the Ruach. Okay, the Sefer was written by the same men. Also, what does Sefer mean? Where does that word come from? It's the same thing as Bible, to decipher, to listen. It's the exact same word. Again, the Sefer itself. What was that translated from? The same books that the Bibles that you're talking on was translated from and transliterated from. He's like, oh, you're misquoting scripture because it says Elohim instead of Yahweh. It's not misquoting scripture, bro. Who's Elohim? Oh, Elohim is Yahweh. Oh, okay, so am I referring to the wrong person? Is there more than one Elohim? No. Oh, so people know what I'm talking about when I say Yahweh. They do. Okay, so then be quiet. Right?
What are you guys talking about?
I'm talking about the live stream voice text comments that the guy's writing.
Yeah, are you guys talking about the name of God? Because
Well, it's not about the name. He's saying I'm misquoting scripture by referring to that name instead of either the title or saying Elohim.
Oh, yeah.
But who is Elohim? Is Elohim Yahweh? Yeah. Okay, so Yahweh. I can use that interchangeably whenever I like. That's dogmatic. That's putting the word as Yah himself. He is not the word, right? Those words on that book are not him. The words on the book were informed by him. They're on the original scripture, okay? The living word was Yahusha. Remember, the word was with Yah at the beginning, right? But you're respecting the idea of scholarly work, Danny, okay? It's completely different. Oh, the Sefer's not scholarly work. What does that even mean? You've got the concept completely mixed up. What you mean it wasn't work of the Ruach HaKodesh? Well, it was transliterated from the very same text in which you're talking about that are canonical. I don't care if it includes books that are not canonical. Was I reading from a book that wasn't canonical? No, I was not. So that's again a straw man. But to sort of be that rigid, like, you can't use Yahweh instead of Elohim, like that is a spirit of religiosity. You're attributing divinity to the structure of the words in the book instead of looking at the actual message and the ruach behind it. If Elohim means Yahweh, there's no problem with that, right? He's listening on the YouTube. That's all.
Oh, yeah. Does it refer also to the angels or the heavenly council, or not that God needs a council?
Well, not in Genesis, it doesn't. It's Elohim. It refers to Yahweh. You know? That's all it refers to.
And the word was God.
Boom.
Mind blown. And then the word became flesh. Boom. And we talked with him and we ate with him. What?
Yeah. Consumed the word.
So this is God.
You know the idea of
yeah.
him building the temple in 3 days, like that's really awesome as well, because it's like we are the temple, right? And then it brings forth the comfort, which would be the chain of command of now first the mediator being Yahushua HaMashiach, and then you come to him with repentance, and then through that you receive the anointing of the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, and then the Holy Spirit itself imbued and imparted into you is the very breath of Abba Yah, which is breathed into our nostrils, right? Which is the very medium in which we live in, the breath, the air itself. This is the thing that connects all of us together. At the moment of Yahushua dying on that cross, right? He dies, and then when he spends 3 days in the earth, as so did Jonah spent 3 days in the belly of the beast, so will the Son of Man, right? So remember, Yahusha is not only the son of Elohim, when he becomes on earth, he's the son of Adam, the man. As so will the Son of Man, right? Spend 3 days in the belly of the earth. 3 days in the belly of the beast, 3 days in the belly of the earth. Another prophecy, right? So will the Son of Man spend 3 days in the belly of the earth, as so did Jonah in the belly of the beast. So then, at the end of this, right, in those 3 days, Yahusha built the third temple. He rose it then. Our bodies became the third temple in which the Ruach HaKodesh inhabited. Remember when he died on the cross, the Shekinah glory, the very curtain, right?
Separated
from the top to bottom. The idea of the Holy of Holies being the confinement, the containment of the Ruach itself, spilled out, poured out, now onto a mediator that mediates it through to us. The chain of command change. The Ruach now in us, the temple, the body is the temple in which that's inhabited in.
Yeah.
The third temple was built in 3 days. What do you think? How does that happen?
Know ye not that your bodies are the temple? Paul as well.
I just think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's like the spirit. They used to go to that place where God's spirit, came down to meet us, and when that curtain opened, it's like that spirit poured out into the world. Now it's available in every temple.
Yes. Exactly.
I wonder if that's why we call the side, next to our head, the temple, right?
Say that again?
You know how you call your mind, your brain, next to your eye. They call it the temple. That's your temple.
Yeah. Very
Funny.
cool. I didn't even think about that. I genuinely didn't think about that before, Bob. Not at all.
Well, that's where the
Yeah.
mind is. Transform and renew the mind by
Of
reading
course.
the word. And that's
I
what
think that's.
well,
I was just gonna say that's one of the biggest arguments for the immaterial, right? It's like our conscious mind.
yeah.
You know, they can't find where it is, right? Yeah, it's the thing that causes physical flesh to move, right? Our conscious, our our brain function, as it were. But like they can't pin down where it is that the conscious mind is. You know, they can try to, and they have tried to, right? Like they've done many experiments, in fact, trying to find out exactly where is the conscious mind, and they can't seem to find it. You know,
Well, what is
it's
it, right? Like, what does it look like? Right? How do you
right.
know it? You gotta see it, right? Maybe it was in front of you the whole time and you just didn't see it.
Well, another part is that we've had people hooked up to monitors, right? Where they're conscious. They're still conscious, but we've had every variation of every other single part of the brain broken, dead, devoid of any form of life at different times, yet people are still conscious. So if it's contained in the brain, the conscious mind, it would mean that at least some of these people wouldn't be able to be conscious, right? If half of your brain is gone, if consciousness is not in that side of the brain, because they're conscious. But then in a different patient, we have the other half of the brain destroyed, but they're conscious. So how can they both be conscious with two different sides of the brain destroyed? That means that it's not in any part of the brain, right?
Yeah, I think the problem is calling it consciousness, right? And calling it a thing because like consciousness is a state, when we're awake or aware when we are awake, right? We call it consciousness because when you're asleep, we
I
say
get
you're
that.
unconscious, right? So I think calling it a conscious, right, is like, just miss.
I
I
get
think
it,
it's
but what
wrong.
is that then? What is thought?
Well, I think it's your spirit. The spirit lives in the, in God, like we were talking, God's
Well,
spirit,
yeah, so
right,
that's all. Yeah.
within it. Right? And then there are like evil spirits that can also inhabit, that don't have bodies, that want to inhabit a body. And when God talks about coming into our temple to have, or into our house to have a meal with us, right? Communing with us, his spirit living in our bodies. I mean, it kind of, your body, you have a spirit that live in your body. You know what I mean? I think that's what it is your spirit.
Mhm.
Or
But I'm just saying that, like, many would argue that if something is immaterial, it cannot exist, right? That is most Western people's way of thought, that the immaterial does not exist. That brain matter is the place in which our soul or our conscious ability to think is derived or it lives.
right.
Is it?
Yes. Well, think about it. Well, it's like this. I've got a computer right here in front of me, right? So all these hardware parts and everything. But then, where is the software? Where's the code, right? And I'll open the computer up. Like, is it in the CPU? Is it in, like, and I look at it, I was like, what is this? I can't see it, but it's there. It's what the operating system is running. Everything is running. But when you open it up, all you see are lights and, transist, electronic stuff. You don't see the code. You don't see the operating system, the algorithms. I think it's something like that. It's there, running it, or else it'd be dead. It wouldn't even be running, right? Like operating system. But does that work? Is that a good analogy?
Well, yeah, it's a good analogy. Yeah, definitely. But for instance, right, the problem with like, I guess I'm trying to get out onto the idea of like, where exactly is it that the people that do not speak of the Ruach or the spirit where do they derive the brain, or should I say the conscious mind, is and where it's from? Because like in the computer, for instance, we can download a program onto it, right? And then the program in which me and you download onto that, right? We can then destroy a certain part of that computer and it will no longer work, right? Or it will completely disappear, right? Where do we see that with the conscious mind?
Yeah.
We don't see it. Like you can destroy a whole half of someone's brain and they can just still be conscious. You
Well, there
know,
are
like
two brains, hey. The bicameral brain.
I don't know.
You know,
The
left hand,
bicameral brain. But-
left hand, right? Creative side,
oh
technical
yeah, of
side,
course.
right? Like, like
But that's why I
left
talk
side
of
needs
like
to
the two
work.
different examples, right? So like,
Right.
you have one person, okay, with one half of their brain destroyed. They're conscious.
Yeah.
There's another person. The other half of their brain, the left side versus the right, two different people, different sides of their brain destroyed, but they're both conscious.
Yep.
It would serve, reason would serve that they both can't be conscious, right? Because between them, the whole area of the brain is destroyed. So where does the conscious mind inhabit? In the brain. It cannot be in the brain in that way. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Because it's covering all the bases. Like it's either in the left side or the right side, basically. But someone can have the whole right side of their brain gone and be conscious, and then the
Right.
other same with the other thing.
I think the left side is and the right side are like mirrors of each other. You know what I mean? And it's like there are two people in you. Like from what I've researched about this is that the left side and the right side of our brain is like having two brains, pretty much. And one side does these things, and the right side does these things. This is what they understand. You can still, if you lose one side, you still have half a brain. Anyone with half a brain can tell you it's not a ball. Okay, that's not. Yeah, you know what I mean. So it's like having two brains, pretty much. Like that's how they've explained it. So I don't know if that's the case.
Well, even scientists are admitting that they can't find where the conscious mind is kept in the brain. They've admitted it. Now they're talking about metaphysical quantum mechanics in the sense that on a almost spiritual level, the conscious mind may exist on a quantum level.
on the Kabbalah level, the Kabbalah level.
Bro, you know, right? Who knows?
Snap. I
But
know,
this
man.
is genuinely, this is the genuine like claim at the moment. One of them is one of their genuine claims that the conscious mind is on that level, and it's like, well, that doesn't seem right. I don't think it seems right to them either, because they're just, I don't know,
It's
like
not very scientific.
they're just punching out, aren't they? They're just trying to make something up because they can't explain a phenomena.
Well, you gotta wait for some theories from the quantum world people to kind of develop that theory. Still waiting for you guys to finish their hurry up, man. Need answers. Oh yeah, quantum, right? How do I answer this? Kabbalah, tree of life. You look at the brain and the tree of life, right?
Okay.
The chakra.
Well, that's kind of my point. Is that when it talks about Yah pouring out his spirit, right? At the very beginning of creation, right? That medium in which he pours out his breath, the Ruach, right, which is now called the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, him pouring out and imbuing his spirit into the face of the watery deep. What's that? We're all breathing that in all times. Like, is that like where consciousness is collected. Someone will say that sounds crazy, but that sounds like the exact same theory that they're proposing with quantum mechanics. That it lives around you in an ethereal type state. Like it's a medium in which, you know.
Like the
What
Holy
is Numa
Spirit.
for 500, Alex?
Huh?
What is Numa for 500?
That makes no sense to me. I'm really sorry.
Spirit, Numa. Sorry.
I've never heard that one.
Yeah.
No, educate me.
I think it's the Greek word for Numa. I mean, spirit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with all of the Greek. I know the Greek word for legion is legion, and the Hebrew word for legion is legion. Oh, and the English word for legion is legion. I find that quite weird.
Legion.
They probably have a common ancestor.
Well, I imagine it was. Yeah, legion, bong, yeah. The word is the same in, like, I think nearly every language. I'm not entirely sure that's. It might not necessarily be 100% true, but, like, in Greek it's legion, in English it's legion. I'm pretty sure in Hebrew also it's lamed. Ayin, Gimel. I can't remember the rest. I can't bother
It's
too
like
far.
yeah, it's like a company, right? Like a squad, or it's a military unit, right? Like
Yeah.
the number is like thousands of demons were in that dude or something. And then there was those pigs, like I think there were thousands of pigs too, like that ran off the cliff.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't remember where it is, but I know what you're talking about. Someone just tried to speak then, and it was.
It was me. I unplugged my phone. It messed everything up.
Whoa, your microphone sounds 10 times better right now.
I know.
I know, because it's battery boosted.
Whoa.
What does that mean?
So
So I charge
you
up my
sound clean,
headphones.
man.
Thanks. I charge up my headphones, and then when I use them, I plug them in my phone with an adapter, of course, and then I flick on the power button, and it's all about amplifying the microphone before you send it to your phone.
Preamping.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, preamping. You got it. So it's not a separate device. It's all built into my headphones.
Nice. So you know that link I posted? If you scroll down a little bit, Spirit, it says meaning, supernatural, immaterial creature, angel, demon, an apparition, invisible corporeal being of an airy nature, as a ghost, a nature character, essential principle of something, the spirits of Christmas. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, Christmas.
yeah,
Sorry.
or spirited, like divine substance, divine mind, God, Christ, his divine nature, the Holy Ghost, animating or vital principle in man and animals, but not plants. It's weird that they don't mention plants here, eh?
Good to have you back, by the way, Bong. I've also been away.
Good to be back. Good to have you back too, Crack.
Where did you go? Sorry, I just interrupted what you were saying, but.
Oh, life.
Yeah.
always getting in the way, my fun. Like, trying to save the world, guys. Okay. So I had to go do some life stuff. I didn't go anywhere. I've been here the whole time. Just do some family stuff and work stuff. Well, not work stuff, homework stuff.
I was gone for like 6 months, mate.
What's that?
I was gone for 6 months myself.
Same. I think we're around the same.
Literally, I come back and Hank Hill's name is Larry. I'm like, what the
Yeah,
fuck is going on?
I know, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
I've been doing a lot of research on law and stuff, right?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So Hank Hill was another straw man, basically. So there's a verse in the Bible. I can't remember it right now. I just kind of woke up from a nap.
Right.
But yeah, it was basically saying that the Lord will sweep me away if I accept titles and personas, something like that. I think it was Job.
No, yeah, you're
Oh,
correct because
I'll look it up.
So like remember Yah doesn't respect persons, doesn't respect titles, he's not a respecter of characters or personhood, and you're actually going to be given a new name at some point also.
Yo, what's up, bro?